he murmurs. Or I'll haunt you for eternity. I don't believe in that. Not one bit. I've cut off Vera as she paints my back in a bonding agent, the familiar sting sinking through layers of filleted flesh before she sketches out her paths with the flick of a delicate paintbrush. I'm still intent on killing you, if given the chance, I warn past clenched teeth. Don't forget to cut off my head, he murmurs, or I'll haunt you for eternity. I don't believe in that. Very few heads in comparison to my rather large body count, and I'm yet to see a single spirit claw at me from the shadows. He lifts a brow. Then what do you believe in? He asks, his voice guttural. Revenge. All the warmth sputters from his eyes, like part of him just slipped away. Revenge is the loneliest deity of them all, Moonbeam. Take it from someone who knows. I open my mouth to speak again, but Bia cuts in. If I'm to do this properly, it will take a while, and it will hurt. The cuts are deep. She will have to relive the pain while I mend the damage. I realize she's not warning me, her eyes able to see what most others cannot. She's warning him. She can do it, he rumbles, gaze challenging me to do just that. With my nod, Bia begins etching her runes, reversing the lifespan of my wounds one vile slash at a time. The king holds my stare as I'm stitched shut in over 100 ways, though it doesn't feel like that. It feels like I'm being ripped wider, my insides bared, examined. Perhaps because I'm used to doing this without an audience besides the Rooney fixing me new. Without somebody else timing their breaths to my own, as though reminding me to breathe. Without somebody else tightening their grip on my hands every time I flinch, wiping the sweat from my brow, rubbing tracks across my blanched knuckles as if to calm my rioting heart. It's a humble moment of peace, despite the pain lancing through me. A quiet moment destined to scream. It doesn't matter how much of my skin is smoothed or how deep he kneels at my feet. I'm still an assassin marked for execution come Aurora rise, and he's still a tyrant king. Diary entry. Elowen Nevan. Age 18 phases. 5,039 phases after stone. I was working on Alum's wing stretches this day, singing her a soft, calming song while extending the fine bones as far as they could go, which is now almost a full extension. She was getting restless, swinging her head around and nudging my side, looking at me with those massive, glittery eyes, like she was trying to say something. She even threw a little flame toward the entrance, which is very unlike her. I now realize she was challenging it. Suddenly, she began tilling her wings so fast her gammy one clipped me in the head and threw me back toward Hadion's chair. I skidded across the ground and landed amongst a pile of ice boulders Ma's moonplume Nathay had recently brought in because we think she might be broody. I hit my head. Hard. When I opened my eyes again, Alum was gone, but I could see her through the entrance, fluttering across the sky, light shafting off her brilliant silver hide, could see her long silken tail dusting the dim with each wonky waggle of her wings, could see the plumes of aqua flames she kept throwing skyward, accompanied by squealing shrieks, like a victory cry to the moons, to her ancestors. I scrambled up to check on Hadion. He was smiling. He looked me right in the eye and said, "Thank you," in a voice so rough I think the words might have hurt coming out, and I've never felt happiness so fierce. For the first time since I climbed in Hadion's sleigh all those phases ago, I felt Remarkable. Rave. Chapter 27. Okay, that's the last, Bia says, smoothing an oil over my back, her hands soft and tender, rubbing all the tension from my now-healed flesh. Battling the urge to groan with relief, I open my eyes, looking straight into a pair of intense cinder orbs, a line dug between the king's thick brows. You okay? He asks, tightening his hold on my clammy hands. I'm great, I slur, tugging them from his grip. Never better. So glad he tortured me back to health during my last living moments. What a way to go out. Fitting, but a bit shit. I lean back so I can lift my hands up over the chair's headrest without snagging my chain and take the towel slung over his shoulder, the one he's been using to dab at my forehead whenever sweat beaded down into my lashes. I'll get my fine-tipped prongs for the pin, Bia says while I stuff my face in the towel, scrubbing the tension from around my eyes, hearing the sound of her footsteps before she begins rummaging through something. Her words finally sink past the fog currently clouding my head. Prongs? What do they need fine-tipped prongs for? Oh. I pulled the towel from my face, catching the king's stare again. You're removing the pin? Makes sense. Wouldn't want any hatchlings choking to death on it if I'm carted west and spat out in a molten maw's tinder nest. You wear iron cuffs, he murmurs, his gaze dragging over every angle of my face, like he's mapping out the shape of it, landing on my eyes again. The pin is unnecessary. Well, yeah, but I'm unnecessary, remember? Skin slabs, Rex Zaros's finger. I don't think you appreciate quite how close you came to being hacked into bits, then tossed off the wall. But hey, thanks for mending me before I die, even though it makes no sense. The corner of his mouth kicks up. Hacked into bits, you say? Obviously. You're the biggest male I've ever seen. I shrug, biting down on a wince because that pin absolutely hurts. It's blatant now that my skin's no longer slashed to ribbons. There's no way I could have dragged you to the edge after I slit your throat. But you didn't. I frown, wishing he wouldn't stuff my indiscretions in my face like that. He smelled good. I fucked up. Let's not dwell on it. The prongs aren't here, Bia says, and that small smile instantly falls off the king's face as he pushes to a stand. I have some in my saddle pack, but it'll take me a while to get there and back, he announces, striding toward the window covered by a round of aged, half-rotten wood. How are we on time? Give me a blade. I wave my hand in the air, jingling my chains. I'll cut it out. The king abruptly stops, and both he and Bia glare at me like I just asked them to pretty please bare their throats so I can slice them open. I roll my eyes. I won't stab you. White flag, remember? I won't give it back either, so don't give me one you're particularly attached to. The only thing worse than losing a good blade is losing all your good blades. Damn it. The tips of my fingers tingle with the urge to gouge them through Rex Zaros's throat and rip out his trachea with my bare hands. Now that I'm mended, the injustice is extra crippling. I'm more than well enough to hunt him if it weren't for these fucking chains. I can put a salve on it, Bia suggests, turning her attention to the king, like I'm not even here. That's a terrible idea, I gripe, reinserting myself back into the conversation. I have a pin in my shoulder. Now that we're all talking about it, I'm growing more and more pissed that I'm going to die with this thing in me, and I think it's only fair that I snatch my comforts wherever I can find them, thank you very much. I lean back from the chair, spinning so I can see the king properly. You have a blade, no doubt. Hand it to me, I say, flopping my hand out for him to fill. Any blade, I'm not picky. Let me root around for a bit. You can close your eyes if you're squeamish. He clears his throat, not for one moment dropping his gaze to my naked breasts now on full display while he turns and grabs the wooden window covering. Sliding it sideways, he peers out, muttering a curse beneath his breath. Does the salve have rindle root in it? To numb pain? Interesting. He wants to ease my suffering as I'm haled into death. And there I was ordering a handsaw to make disassembling him easier. It does, Bia responds, digging her hand into a large leather bag she has stretched open on the work table. She pulls a jar free like it's some sort of trophy, and I frown at the lumpy green paste inside. And fermented eel eggs. To disinfect. But most importantly, to make you smell like you've been shat on. No thank you. You know what? I say, trying to wrangle my shirt back on. Fuck it, I'm good. Doesn't even hurt. Let the hatchlings choke. Do it. The king slides the window cover back into place, snipping off the extra spill of light. We don't have time to cut out the pin, he says, nailing me with a stare that shoots straight through me and out the other side. The aurora's about to rise. My heart plummets so fast I almost vomit. Damn. Guess it's almost time to die. I side-eye Rook's empty cell as I rock from side to side, dragging my itchy back against the stone, an itch that threads bone deep in places, making me want to rip apart all Bia's hard work just to satiate the uncomfortable sensation. Guess the incognito king made good on his promise while I was away. I hope Rook's satisfied with his saber scythe tusk and that he wasn't instead fed to whatever beast it previously belonged to. I'm not stupid enough to believe this scratchy gift I've been given comes without caveats, too. Few folk help others in this world without expecting something in return. There's a reason I was coaxed to that room. I'm just yet to work out what it is. Easing my tunic down, I reach back to finger the goo Bia stuffed in the hole punched through my shoulder blade, frowning at the acrid stench. Now I get to die smelling like fermented eel eggs barely softened by a herbal twang. Lovely. At least it seemed to finally quench the king's strange, almost compulsive desire to take my pain away. I frown. Perhaps it has to do with the one I remind him of? Perhaps healing me assuaged him somehow? Made him feel better about himself? That must be it. I breathe a sigh of relief, thankful I worked out the riddle. I did not want to take that question to my gnawing end. A drop of mildew lands on my nose, dashing my relief. A splatting reminder that I'm in a cell, waiting for death. That these are my final moments. Fuck. Scanning my surroundings, I take in the resting forms of my cellmates, envying their deep, languid breaths. Sleep would be nice right now. I could exist elsewhere for a little bit. Anywhere but here. But I can't summon the urge to snuff myself into oblivion. I'm too wound up inside, like there's a lightning storm caught in my chest, zapping me every time I even think about closing my eyes. For all I know, the guards might be charging down this very moment, ready to drag me to my fiery doom. My insides knot. I bat the thoughts away, but just like Nee used to, they keep bumping against me, nuzzling me. Loved that. Hate this. I pull my chest full of air and slowly blow it out, picking at the skin down the side of my nail. Don't think. Don't think. Don't think. I close my eyes, tapping my foot to the quiet, calming tune lilting in the back of my mind, timing the beat to the splats of moisture falling from the ceiling. Splat, 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 splat. The hairs on my arms lift. My eyes pop open. Through the bars, a waggle of distorted air draws my gaze, no taller than knee height. My eyes narrow as it peels away to reveal a crouching creature with a wild tangle of fur the color of snow, matching her brows and lashes, though contrasting with the smooth, pale pink skin on her face, neck, legs, and arms. Uno lets her cloak fall to the ground in a rumple of inky fabric sketched with luminous runes, flashing me a mischievous smile that's all sharp teeth. The organ in my chest squeezes so hard I fear it might crack down the middle. "What are you doing here?" I whisper hiss through clenched teeth, leaning forward, nipping a glance down the tunnel, my pulse powering so fast my head feels light and airy. Her large, fluffy ears twitch as they strain for sound. "Serene spoke to Master, commanded I get you out." Icy rage rumbles in the pit of my belly. Of course Serene ordered this, which means she intends to replace me with another, to feed the crown with another. What's worse, she put Uno in danger to retrieve me. Ruse must be out of her mind with worry. Uno pulls a pick from one of the many colorful patchwork pockets stitched into her woolen garb, stretches her body into a long line, grabs my lock, and slides the thin metal pin into the opening. "Stop." Her delicate hands still, pink eyes flicking to me, slit pupils narrowing. A line forms between her brows, the white, tufted tip of her long tail flitting back and forth. "Get out of here, Uno. Please. You can't risk being caught." Her lips peel back from pin-sharp teeth, buttony features contorting into something honed and horrific. "You are not Master." The words slit my skin, leaving a stinging trail. "You do not command me." Stubborn misgun. I sigh, glancing down the tunnel again, then back into her fierce eyes. They know I'm a threat. If I live, they will double down their hunt. I pause before landing my kidney shot. They will find Ruse. Uno snaps her teeth together and snarls, lips thinning. Her tail spears forward, brushing against my cheek. Her eyes flash iridescent. She goes statue still, her already pale complexion lightening so much her skin turns translucent in places where it's most thin. Her temples, the insides of her frail wrists, the lanky bend of her knobbly legs. Silence stretches as she languishes in one of her rare foretellings, and I swallow, watching the prismatic flecks in her eyes churn. The pink bits congeal, rising to the surface, glimmering red in the warm light. Her tail whips from my face so fast it's like I'm made of fire, a shuddered breath sucking through her pin-tooth maw. She blinks, pulls her pick from the lock, and folds back down into a crouch. Droplets of hope I didn't even realize I possessed splatting against my ribs. "You know I'm right." She tucks the pick into the little pink pocket on her woolen garb. "Master will die if you do not go to that Colosseum. Serene, too. I have seen it, now." My chest deflates, and I nod. "That's settled, then." "I'm not surprised," I whisper, forcing a smile. "I pissed off the Guild of Nobles. Thoroughly. I imagine they'll turn this city upside down to find me if I don't make it to my execution." "They will," she says with stoic certainty. "I will relay my seeings to Master. She can pass them to her Master, who can pass them to her Master." My smile softens. "You do that, Uno." She reaches into her orange pocket, revealing a piece of coal. "Come," she says, raising it for me to see. I frown. With another glance down the tunnel, I lift my metal pole so my chains won't drag along the ground and shuffle forward. Uno gestures for me to rest my head between two bars, the metal brisk upon the sides of my face. Her bottom lip wobbles as she drags the piece of coal across my forehead. I immediately know the shape she's drawing, so thoroughly familiar with the moon I seek out in the sky whenever I'm looking toward the shade. "This is right," she whispers, and I swallow the odd thickening in my throat. "I know." She tilts back, knobbled knees up around her cheeks, studying me while I study her. It's on the tip of my tongue to ask whether or not I get munched right from the steak or carted off to Boggeth and fed to a clutch of hatchlings, despite knowing her visions are sporadic, that the outcomes can shift and sway. But I decide it's better to drown myself in ignorance right until the bitter end. I close my eyes, not wanting to say a goodbye that'll taste like ash, hearing the near-silent pad of her scuffled steps fade into oblivion. Only when I'm certain she's gone do I open my eyes again, looking into the empty space before me. I clear my throat, shuffling back to the wall, rubbing my itchy back against the abrasive surface. "Why a bowl?" comes a rasped voice to my left. I look sideways at the male I thought was asleep, bunched beneath his filthy blanket, instead watching me through the bars. "It's a moon." He frowns. "Then why a moon?" I cast my gaze forward again, tap, tap, tapping my foot to the soothing tune in my head. "Because they fall, even when we don't want them to." Rave. Chapter 28. I'm escorted through the cramped and crowded ditch, flanked by the crown's beaded soldiers, the sky weeping flakes of snow that dust the ground, an icy cushion for my barefooted shuffle past tight-lipped city folk. It's not normal to be marched to the Colosseum with a parade of guards and rows of silent witnesses, but with an abundance of posters slapped on the walls alerting of my capture and execution time, I understand. They watch me shuffle through the thin cleft in the crowd, both sides lined by more fayed soldiers, like fence posts guarding a flock of stock. Swords at their hips, narrowed eyes scanning, perhaps waiting to see if any Fier Duath will step forward and show themselves. Try to help me. I'm confident they won't interfere, not after Uno's foretelling. So I keep my chin high as I pass faces I recognize, fey folk and even a few creatures I've come to trust over the phases. Other members of the Ath who played small but poignant roles in my life before I fell upon this sword I've spent my known life sharpening. To me, their faces glow like moons. Just like the ones in the sky, I hope they don't fall. Sad that I won't be around to see this kingdom restored to its former glory. Serene will do it. I know she will. Eventually. Much as I hate her, the bitch doesn't know how to fail. A seed of hope I'll take to my death. Stony-faced servants of the crown cradle bowls of what I can only imagine is some sort of animal blood, splattering me with throes of it, drenching me in its metallic reek as a thunder of molten maws shadow the sky, the booming beat of their powerful wings thumping, thumping, much like my rallying heart. A speck of snow settles on the tip of my nose, and I look up, smiling, certain everybody else thinks I'm suffering from the brisk weather. But I wonder if our water goddess knows otherwise. If rain's waving me off with frosty tears that actually bring me a sense of comfort, chilling the fire in my veins and the anger in my heart. There's no point to it anyway. Not anymore. It's over. Done. I'll go to my doom shackled by only two regrets: that I never got to flay Rexaros from cock to throat, and that I failed to experience life in the way Fallon explained it before she passed. This beautiful, bolstering freedom that was always just out of reach. Both regrets feel like splinters in my heart as I'm escorted toward a stairway chipped into the north side of the wall, zigzagging up the levels until I'm almost close enough to the clouds to catch them in my mouth, to taste them. Nearing the top of the wall, I begin rolling onto my tiptoes every few steps, craning my neck, determined to steal a peek of the moon I love so much, one last time. Just a little higher, and I might be able to... I scan the low, snow-spewing clouds that blanket the sky in all directions, obscuring the moons. Every moon. My heart drops, something sharp pricking the backs of my eyes. I'm shoved into a tunnel lined with flaming sconces, and I snarl, the cloudy view blocked by stone and flame. The beat of stomping boots echoes off the walls, and I'm certain those boots are stomping my chest with the weight of my disappointment, fracturing my ribs, crushing my lungs. Brush it off. Stuff it away. I lift my chin as we turn down another tunnel before I'm led up a swirling staircase that spits me out upon the central stage of the Colosseum, so vast it makes me feel like a speck of dirt at the bottom of a basin. Tiny. Insignificant. The thick stone awning shelters a single layer of seating that crowns the building, protecting the vibrant elementals who've come to watch me die, willing to risk their lives to witness the grisly spectacle. They laugh, gasp, and murmur, pointing in my direction as I'm backed against a wooden stake, my feet lost within crusted layers of snow. I give them a shackled wave, flashing them a smile. "Thanks for coming to send me off," I yell, followed by a murmured, "assholes." The guards jostle my hands to my sides, binding coils of fibrous rope around me until I'm secured so tight it's hard to pull a full breath. They thread back down the stairs while my lungs wrestle against the constricting bind. A burst of panic explodes behind my ribs. I'm trapped, powerless, so fucking alone. The realization stabs me in the heart, fear seeping through my veins in a rush of boiling blood. My breaths come short, sharp, and fast, that terrible tremble that shook me in the cell resurging with a vengeance. Perhaps noticing my sudden discomfort, some of the elementals laugh, cackles pelting me like thrown rocks. Cheeks blazing, I refuse to look at them again. Instead, I throw my stare skyward, eyes widening on the vibrant beasts circling above, cutting through the clouds, whisking the pretty colors into a churning iris focused on me. Flakes of snow pepper my hair and face as I try to halt my chattering teeth and slow my shallow, frantic breaths. This is a slumber terror I'm going to wake from. As with every slumber terror, you don't wake until it breaks you enough you jolt free. That's it. I just have to break. Then I'll be free. A swirl of action within the Imperial box snags my attention, and I see a female move through a crew of parting soldiers, her pale complexion such a stark contrast to the red crown that garnishes a river of ruddy hair. The Queen. I didn't think she attended these. Guess I'm high profile enough to earn the privilege. The feeding bell tolls, and my next breath is a punch to the back of my throat, each gong ratcheting through my bones as Her Imperial Highness reaches the balustrade. Her gaze falls upon me, and she stills, eyes widening with a flash of something. Shock? Disbelief? Recognition? I failed to pin it down. Lacking the heartbeats to care, I let my attention drift to this swarm of beasts flocking the sky. Creators. A massive molten maw lands on the stone awning, yellow and orange plumage making it look like an angry flame come to devour me. I jolt as it tips its long, tapered beak and squalls to the sky, scattering some of the smaller beasts that had begun to descend before weaving its head into the bowl. So close. Its slit pupils expand, and it snaps its solid beak at the air right before my face, like a practice bite. I hold the dragon's scarlet stare. A blow of air gusts against me. The molten maw swings its head to the left, trilling at a second beast almost the same monstrous size now clinging to the awning across the other side of the building. It cranks its beak and releases its own chaotic screech, spraying a haze of spittle and smoke. I turn my head, trying to shield myself from the blast, my stare delving straight into the Imperial box. The queen is clutching the balustrade with white-knuckled hands, screaming at the soldiers behind her, soldiers that look from her to me, their faces parchment pale. Her wide, manic eyes lock with mine, and there's something in those mossy eyes that disturbs my internal lake. Tears flow down her cheeks, and she begins shaping words I can't hear, though I can see, can recognize. She's singing to Claude, begging her to gust, to spin. The air around me becomes a cyclonic churn of snow and ice almost impossible to glimpse through. The stake I'm tethered to wobbles like it's about to untether from the stage, my hair threatening to pull from its roots, stringy ends reaching for the toiling vortex. The two molten maws screech and shove from the roof, wings beating against the stir of air that rips vibrant feathers from their underbellies, scattering them into the swirl that herds the creatures back toward the clouds. Through the ferocious whisk of snow slicing past my face, I lock eyes with the queen again, her chest racking with sobs, a warm smile filling her cheeks. Understanding drops into my belly like a heavy meal after a long stint of starvation, and I frown. She's trying to scare the dragons off. She's saving me. A deep, guttural pulse shakes the air, thumping from every angle. The dump, the dump, the dump. All the light leaches from the Colosseum, eclipsed by a terrible darkness that almost swallows me whole. Screams erupt from the crowd now scrambling from their seats, running for the exits, some tripping over each other in their panicked haste. The queen breaks my stare and looks up past the building's crown, eyes bulging. Confusion punches through me, and I do the same. My heart stops, breath fleeing as the largest saber scythe I've ever seen drops toward the Colosseum with a tail of its billowy wings. It extends its mammoth claws and grips hold of the curved awning, settling its weight on the structure that no longer looks strong and sturdy, not compared to this beast, the color of an old puddle of blood, appearing black in the places where scraps of filtered light don't touch its plate-sized scales. The entire world seems to tremble, cracks weaving through the stone, bits of it breaking away and plummeting around me, crushing some of the nobles who failed to get away fast enough. Violent howls of panic and pain rattle the atmosphere. The dragon extends its wings to an impossible width, splayed membranes drumming from the force of the queen's cyclonic song, its clawed tips reaching so far I picture them able to bind around the Colosseum more than once. Shit, I mutter, wondering why a beast so large would bother with such a tiny speck of nourishment. Unless it wants me for its young. My stomach drops. Not only am I going to die, but I'm going to do it slowly and in the hottest place in the world. Gondor, the saber scythe spawning grounds. The king was right. I am haunted. All the angry spirits of folk I failed to behead lured this beast to my execution and are now having the final laugh. Good for them. Shit for me. All the breath whooshes from my lungs as the dragon shoves its head down into the bowl with a boisterous swoop, its boxy face barbed in horns and tusks that curl and slash it into something monstrous. It blows a searing breath upon me, peering at me through inky globes crammed within a nest of embers. Something blasts up from the depths of my shattering internal lake like a net that swallows my solid heart. Claws gore into the stony flesh, injecting me with a song that wrestles up my throat and sits on my tongue like a ball of icy flame, prying my jaw wide. It spills in rhythm with my galloping heartbeat, my serrated voice cutting through the din. A language not of the common tongue, but something different. Something I don't understand, and should probably question. The dragon blinks, head tipping to the side while the foreign tune clumps against my teeth like fractals of frost and snow. I frown. Is the beast doing more than just listening to my words? Is it digesting them instead of me? Small drops of hope burgeon in my chest. At least until the saber scythe cranks its cavernous maw and roars, a billowing blaze spiked with the stench of fried flesh. My heart lurches as I stare at that bulb of ruddy flame welling at the base of its ribbed throat, waiting for that incinerating blast to surge, to burn. The beast strikes. Sharp teeth close around me, casting me in a pitch of darkness that's hot and wet. Splitting, crunching sounds attack me from all around before the stake I'm bound against dislodges from the stage and lurches sideways, taking me with it, leaving my plunging stomach behind. Fear finally masticates me into oblivion. Diary entry. Elowyn Nevan. Age 18 phases. 5,039 phases after stone. I slept in the hutch, last slumber, cradled by the silken tuft of Slatra's curled tail, dreaming of happy things, high on the aftermath of seeing Hadeon take his first flight upon Olum's back, smile beaming, both of them hollering victory screams to the sky. High on the ride we'd taken together, drenched in moonlight, soaring between jagged mountain peaks, snow gusting in our wake from the giddy swish of our moonplume's silky tails, Hadeon more alive than he's ever been. I slept in the hutch, last slumber, dreaming of happy things, while my family slept on pallets they'd never rise from. While some sort of ingested poison threaded through their bodies and strangled them to death. Ma, Pa, Hadeon. I know their final moments were painful. I can see it in their bulging eyes, in the unnatural twist of their mouths that won't smile or sing or whisper my name no matter how hard I hug them or scream at them to try. This huge hurt, it fills every bit of my chest and makes it hard to breathe. Makes me so heavy I don't think I'll ever be able to move again. Nor do I think I want to. How can someone you love so much be here one moment, gone the next? Just gone. Alum, Nathe, and Akeri keep swooping past the window, screeching, blowing their flames. Every time they cry out, more scores slit across my heart. They must know something's wrong. I don't have it in me to show them what they've lost. Not yet. I'm still hoping I'll open my eyes to find it's all been one big, horrible dream. Ma and Pa's aides say I need to let them go, that we need to commit their bodies back to the elements, to the creators who failed to be there for them when they needed them most. That feels too final. I don't want this to be our final hug, the final time I look into their eyes and tell them I love them. I don't want this part of them to disappear too. They say I need to wear Ma's diadem now that it's finally loosened from her head, but only after it suckled every last drop of life from her body and made her unrecognizable. Now the creators won't stop screaming, spitting hissed words I've never heard before. Words I don't know, nor do I have the desire to learn. Not right now. I think they also want me to don the diadem. Ma once told me she's never felt closer to death than the moment she settled it on her brow, so perhaps I will finally put it on, if only to be exactly that. Closer. Rave. Chapter 30. My new cage reeks of fiery death and sulfur, a spongy, billowing blackness that rumbles all around me, noises echoing, gurgling, grinding sounds, and the drumming beat of wings. The dump, the dump, the dump. I groan, my face cushioned by a pool of gooey wetness that keeps trying to drown me, slopping over my head and slugging through my hair with every dramatic bank and rise and heart-plunging dip. A serrated blade of fear slices through my chest. The saber scythe hasn't cranked its jaw and nudged me between the wall of sabers my knee is rubbing against, which means I was, unfortunately, correct. There's only one place I'm destined for, if I don't drown to death in its saliva before we make it there. This beast is lugging me all the way to Gondor to feed me to its spawn. Fuck. I have no idea how long we've been airborne. No idea how fast this beast can fly with its mammoth wingspan. For 15 buckets of bloodstone, you can purchase a risky one-way passage to Gondor from Gore's public hutch for those stupid enough to attempt to steal a saber scythe egg, but it's advertised to take 7 Aurora cycles, if you make it there at all. There's no way I have the neck strength to last 7 Aurora cycles. I release a gurgling breath, finding small comfort in the knowledge that I'll probably die before I'm spat out amongst a nest of molten rock beside a clutch of small, hungry versions of this thing. A shiver rakes up my spine as I imagine them scrapping over my remains while they spit primitive flames that lack the punch to end my life cordially. I'm definitely either haunted, cursed, or a bit of both. Suddenly and without warning, the beast plummets. My guts splat against my spine, the force of the fall dislodging the wooden stake from the beast's maw and hurtling me backward. I come to a jolting halt at the back of its throat, eyes bulging as I peer down the ribbed cavern to the swollen pip of flame roiling at its base, painting me in a heat so fierce I'm surprised my flesh isn't melting off my bones. Past and present mince together, mulching my insides. Another tiny jolt backward, and that fire will swallow me. It'll finally get me. My heart races hard and fast, and I close my eyes, squeeze them tight, tap my foot against the stake while singing a sprightly song, picturing myself somewhere cold and dark while a patter of snow dusts my upturned face. There once was a jolly wee gypsy who harbored a thieving knack. She gathered her gear upon her back in a pack-bearing dragon tack. She took to the molten bog in search of a fiery egg, it said. She leapt from mound to mound, what could be found? Be found. Into a tinder nest she stole, finding an egg that was whole, we're told. But the egg was already bumping, bumping. Then she heard a thumping, thumping. Flames began dumping, dumping. Our jolly wee gypsy now jumping, jumping. There once was a jolly wee gypsy who dove into the molten bog to escape the fiery logs of a hatching molten smog, then emerged as a velvet trog. I'm suddenly ripped from the back of the beast's gaping throat and flung forward, the log relodging itself against the curving wall of incisors with such force I feel my brain bounce against the inside of my skull. There's no more rhythmic thudump of beating wings. Did we land? Gut-clenching anticipation makes the underside of my tongue tingle. Creators, this is it. I'm about to be spat out in a nest and eaten. I don't want to be eaten. A rumbling sound boils all around me, and the dragon loosens its maw, strings of saliva stretching between the piercing peaks of its catastrophic teeth, each far bigger than me. Brightness shafts between the widening gap, the fierce glare cutting into my aching eyes. I'm still squinting when the beast jostles its head, then threads its tongue beneath the log and flicks me free like a piece of plaque. My heart lodges into my throat as I soar through the sky, blocking the scream threatening to erupt. Thankfully. I refuse to die with a wail on my lips. I will growl, curse, and snarl at these small, thorny, fire-breathing fuckers until they tear out my windpipe. Gravity lugs me down, and I faceplant into something warm, grainy, impossible to breathe through. Softer than I imagined a saber-scythe nest would be. Not as flesh-meltingly hot as I expected either, though I'm sure its spawn will pick up the slack. The stake jerks backward, lobbing the other direction and thumping down again so I'm lying on it and not the other way around, like a perfectly presented meal on a stick. These hatchlings must be huge and strong, and they must like playing with their food. Lovely. My stomach knots, and a retching spill of saber-scythe saliva gushes up my throat. I tip my head and cough, hack, heave, guts cramping as my body rejects everything. Between each burping, groaning retch, I pry my aching eyes open a little more, taking in the male standing over me with his arms crossed and a scowl on his beautifully tailored face. A male I've become painfully familiar with, now watching me vomit all over the minuscule grains of stone I garner must be sand. I've heard about it. First impressions count, and unfortunately for this sand that's now scratching my eyeballs and plastered all over my face and hair, we're off to a bad start. I am, however, alive and currently not burning to death or being gnawed on. A realization that turns my retching heaves into laughter that shakes my entire chest, sounding like one of Claude's manic episodes. I'm so glad it's you, I dredge out between bouts of belly-aching chortles. Now I finally get the pleasure of killing you.
I just saved your life.
The incognito king drones, brows raised, black cloak billowing in the scorch of wind that throws more fucking sand in my eyes.
Perhaps a thank you is better fitting than a dagger dragged across my throat.
If you'd almost drowned in saber-scythe drool, you'd disagree, I proclaim, squinting up at his broody face with the confidence of somebody not shackled in iron and tied to a stick. How about we switch seats? See how you feel after you've been marinating in its mouth for a bit. I'm certain you'll want to slit my throat, too. The king banks his head to the side, his voice a rumbled drawl as he says,
You'd rather I have broken you from your cell, scurried you out of Gore, and left an unsatisfied guild of nobles still frothing for the blood of your rebellious clan? Perhaps you hate your head in Rygon's mouth because any sense you harbor is being spat out like minced meat.
Rygon. Guess this is the Burn King, Khan Vagor. Fitting, and just my luck to be snatched by the feared, mysterious king, and not the one who's apparently still mourning his dead queen. Sounds like that one has a heart. From what I hear, all this one has is a very hungry dragon and an affinity with boulders strong enough to crush a city with a single word. Lovely. Think I'll beg Raigun to pick me up again and cart me straight to Gondor. Spit me out in a nest. I'd rather try my shitty luck with a bunch of famished hatchlings. I did hit my head. Thank you very much. I also choked on your dragon's saliva, was almost swallowed, and currently reek of dead things that'll probably never wash off. Now untie me so we can get this over with.
You're not afraid of Raigun?
I look past his hulking form to the beast at his back, perched on his haunches, inky eyes narrowed on me as he blows whiffs of steam from flared nostrils, ignoring the spike of fear that tries to nuzzle into my callus-encrusted heart. I've often thought folk look like their pets. This is no exception. Both beast and male are built from slabs of brawn, casting shadows across the rust-colored sand. Their ember eyes penetrate my soul with cutthroat stares that snatch something inside my chest and grip it tight, leaving me with the knowledge that wiggling will be to my detriment. That the grip will only tighten until my eyes pop from their sockets and blood bursts from my mouth. They're both frightening, basking in their prime, both devastating to look at, in entirely different ways. I clear my throat, tossing a slop of saliva-laden hair off my face with a flick of my head, eyes narrowing on the king looking down at me with an expression as dry as our parched surroundings. No beast is tame enough to cradle a squirming meal in their maw if it's not meant for their young, and your beast looks like he eats, I say, nipping another glance at Raigun, wondering how many living things contributed to his hulking size. He would have crunched on me if he didn't like me a little bit. Ropes. Now. Khan continues to watch me, unmoving, not breaking a sweat despite the fierce sunshine beating upon the side of his face, cutting across his strong, striking features that threaten to unpick me from my murderous thoughts. Again. Quick, I'm getting burnt.
If you kill me, you'll be stuck in the Botanic Plains without a ride, without access to water, and with that skin you'll wither like a moon plume caught in the sun and be dead before aurora rise.
He grinds out, stating the obvious. I can already feel my skin chapping.
And that's if Raigun lets you live after he sees me bleeding out in the sand. He may like you now, but I can assure you his loyalty lies with me.
I scowl at the creature, who blows more puffs of smoke from his flared nostrils, a mighty rumble broiling in his chest that makes me picture being caught between his sabers and crunched into a mulch of bone shards and frothy blood.
Plus, you have no weapons, a festering pin in your shoulder, and if I'm not mistaken, you haven't eaten in almost 2 rises. How about we wave that white flag again and you suppress the urge to kill me until after you've feasted, bathed, and you're no longer suffering from an infection that's beginning to weave through your bloodstream?
He's so full of dragon shit. The only infection I'm suffering stems directly from your self-indignant presence.
Wrong.
His upper lip peels back from canines long and honed, making muscles tighten low in my belly. Strangely, he crouches, eclipsing the sun as he pulls the collar of my tunic with such force a button pops free. What are you? He stuffs his finger down the hole in my shoulder, the stab of pain like a fiery poker straight through muscle, sinew, bone. I scream, a grated burst I immediately regret. Nobody makes me scream. Certainly not him. His finger retreats with a squelch, and I snarl through bared teeth, heaving short, sharp breaths that do nothing to satiate the rage swelling in my chest like a roil of dragon flame. He sniffs his bloody finger, the next words powering out of him with such savagery they're almost tangible against my pebbling skin.
I can smell it.
Wet warmth bubbles from the freshly plundered wound while I study all the bits of him I'd like to slash and dash. I really want to kill you.
Perfectly aware.
He mumbles, flicking my blood off his hand.
But now is not the time.
I look at the beast at his back, extending his wings, basking in the sun, then cast my gaze farther abroad, our surroundings a stretch of rippled sand, bits of it being picked up and tossed around in copper eddies. The air above it ripples too, distorting the powder blue horizon littered with dusky moons almost close enough to reach up and cradle in my palms. Rave. Nor more do I think I want to. Diary entry, yikes. Ratcheting through my bones as Her Imperial Highness reaches the balustrade. Her gaze falls upon me. Diary entry. Elowyn Nevan. Age 18 phases. 5,039 phases after stone. I slept in the hutch, last slumber, cradled by the silken tuft of Slatra's curled tail, dreaming of happy things, high on the aftermath of seeing Hadeon take his first flight upon Olum's back, smile beaming, both of them hollering victory screams to the sky. High on the ride we'd taken together, drenched in moonlight, soaring between jagged mountain peaks, snow gusting in our wake from the giddy swish of our moonplume's silky tails, Hadeon more alive than he's ever been. I slept in the hutch, last slumber, dreaming of happy things, while my family slept on pallets they'd never rise from. While some sort of ingested poison threaded through their bodies and strangled them to death. Ma, Pa, Hadeon. I know their final moments were painful. I can see it in their bulging eyes, in the unnatural twist of their mouths that won't smile or sing or whisper my name no matter how hard I hug them or scream at them to try. This huge hurt, it fills every bit of my chest and makes it hard to breathe. Makes me so heavy I don't think I'll ever be able to move again. Nor do I think I want to. How can someone you love so much be here one moment, gone the next? Just gone. Alum, Nathe, and Akeri keep swooping past the window, screeching, blowing their flames. Every time they cry out, more scores slit across my heart. They must know something's wrong. I don't have it in me to show them what they've lost. Not yet. I'm still hoping I'll open my eyes to find it's all been one big, horrible dream. Ma and Pa's aides say I need to let them go, that we need to commit their bodies back to the elements, to the creators who failed to be there for them when they needed them most. That feels too final. I don't want this to be our final hug, the final time I look into their eyes and tell them I love them. I don't want this part of them to disappear too. They say I need to wear Ma's diadem now that it's finally loosened from her head, but only after it suckled every last drop of life from her body and made her unrecognizable. Now the creators won't stop screaming, spitting hissed words I've never heard before. Words I don't know, nor do I have the desire to learn. Not right now. I think they also want me to don the diadem. Ma once told me she's never felt closer to death than the moment she settled it on her brow, so perhaps I will finally put it on, if only to be exactly that. Closer. Rave. Chapter 30. My new cage reeks of fiery death and sulfur, a spongy, billowing blackness that rumbles all around me, noises echoing, gurgling, grinding sounds, and the drumming beat of wings. The dump, the dump, the dump. I groan, my face cushioned by a pool of gooey wetness that keeps trying to drown me, slopping over my head and slugging through my hair with every dramatic bank and rise and heart-plunging dip. A serrated blade of fear slices through my chest. The saber scythe hasn't cranked its jaw and nudged me between the wall of sabers my knee is rubbing against, which means I was, unfortunately, correct. There's only one place I'm destined for, if I don't drown to death in its saliva before we make it there. This beast is lugging me all the way to Gondor to feed me to its spawn. Fuck. I have no idea how long we've been airborne. No idea how fast this beast can fly with its mammoth wingspan. For 15 buckets of bloodstone, you can purchase a risky one-way passage to Gondor from Gore's public hutch for those stupid enough to attempt to steal a saber scythe egg, but it's advertised to take 7 Aurora cycles, if you make it there at all. There's no way I have the neck strength to last 7 Aurora cycles. I release a gurgling breath, finding small comfort in the knowledge that I'll probably die before I'm spat out amongst a nest of molten rock beside a clutch of small, hungry versions of this thing. A shiver rakes up my spine as I imagine them scrapping over my remains while they spit primitive flames that lack the punch to end my life cordially. I'm definitely either haunted, cursed, or a bit of both. Suddenly and without warning, the beast plummets. My guts splat against my spine, the force of the fall dislodging the wooden stake from the beast's maw and hurtling me backward. I come to a jolting halt at the back of its throat, eyes bulging as I peer down the ribbed cavern to the swollen pip of flame roiling at its base, painting me in a heat so fierce I'm surprised my flesh isn't melting off my bones. Past and present mince together, mulching my insides. Another tiny jolt backward, and that fire will swallow me. It'll finally get me. My heart races hard and fast, and I close my eyes, squeeze them tight, tap my foot against the stake while singing a sprightly song, picturing myself somewhere cold and dark while a patter of snow dusts my upturned face. There once was a jolly wee gypsy who harbored a thieving knack. She gathered her gear upon her back in a pack-bearing dragon tack. She took to the molten bog in search of a fiery egg, it said. She leapt from mound to mound, what could be found? Be found. Into a tinder nest she stole, finding an egg that was whole, we're told. But the egg was already bumping, bumping. Then she heard a thumping, thumping. Flames began dumping, dumping. Our jolly wee gypsy now jumping, jumping. There once was a jolly wee gypsy who dove into the molten bog to escape the fiery logs of a hatching molten smog, then emerged as a velvet trog. I'm suddenly ripped from the back of the beast's gaping throat and flung forward, the log relodging itself against the curving wall of incisors with such force I feel my brain bounce against the inside of my skull. There's no more rhythmic thudump of beating wings. Did we land? Gut-clenching anticipation makes the underside of my tongue tingle. Creators, this is it. I'm about to be spat out in a nest and eaten. I don't want to be eaten. A rumbling sound boils all around me, and the dragon loosens its maw, strings of saliva stretching between the piercing peaks of its catastrophic teeth, each far bigger than me. Brightness shafts between the widening gap, the fierce glare cutting into my aching eyes. I'm still squinting when the beast jostles its head, then threads its tongue beneath the log and flicks me free like a piece of plaque. My heart lodges into my throat as I soar through the sky, blocking the scream threatening to erupt. Thankfully, I refuse to die with a wail on my lips. I will growl, curse, and snarl at these small, thorny, fire-breathing fuckers until they tear out my windpipe. Gravity lugs me down, and I faceplant into something warm, grainy, impossible to breathe through. Softer than I imagined a saber-scythe nest would be. Not as flesh-meltingly hot as I expected either, though I'm sure its spawn will pick up the slack. The stake jerks backward, lobbing the other direction and thumping down again so I'm lying on it and not the other way around, like a perfectly presented meal on a stick. These hatchlings must be huge and strong, and they must like playing with their food. Lovely. My stomach knots, and a retching spill of saber-scythe saliva gushes up my throat. I tip my head and cough, hack, heave, guts cramping as my body rejects everything. Between each burping, groaning retch, I pry my aching eyes open a little more, taking in the male standing over me with his arms crossed and a scowl on his beautifully tailored face. A male I've become painfully familiar with, now watching me vomit all over the minuscule grains of stone I garner must be sand. I've heard about it. First impressions count, and unfortunately for this sand that's now scratching my eyeballs and plastered all over my face and hair, we're off to a bad start. I am, however, alive and currently not burning to death or being gnawed on. A realization that turns my retching heaves into laughter that shakes my entire chest, sounding like one of Claude's manic episodes. I'm so glad it's you, I dredge out between bouts of belly-aching chortles. Now I finally get the pleasure of killing you.
I just saved your life.
The incognito king drones, brows raised, black cloak billowing in the scorch of wind that throws more fucking sand in my eyes.
Perhaps a thank you is better fitting than a dagger dragged across my throat.
If you'd almost drowned in saber-scythe drool, you'd disagree, I proclaim, squinting up at his broody face with the confidence of somebody not shackled in iron and tied to a stick. How about we switch seats? See how you feel after you've been marinating in its mouth for a bit. I'm certain you'll want to slit my throat, too. The king banks his head to the side, his voice a rumbled drawl as he says,
You'd rather I have broken you from your cell, scurried you out of gore, and left an unsatisfied guild of nobles still frothing for the blood of your rebellious clan? Perhaps you hit your head in Rygon's mouth because any sense you harbor is being spat out like minced meat.
Rygon. Guess this is the Burn King, Khan Vagor. Fitting, and just my luck to be snatched by the feared, mysterious king, and not the one who's apparently still mourning his dead queen. Sounds like that one has a heart. From what I hear, all this one has is a very hungry dragon and an affinity with boulders strong enough to crush a city with a single word. Lovely. Think I'll beg Rygun to pick me up again and cart me straight to Gondor. Spit me out in a nest. I'd rather try my shitty luck with a bunch of famished hatchlings. I did hit my head. Thank you very much. I also choked on your dragon's saliva, was almost swallowed, and currently reek of dead things that'll probably never wash off. Now untie me so we can get this over with.
You're not afraid of Rygon?
I look past his hulking form to the beast at his back, perched on his haunches, inky eyes narrowed on me as he blows whiffs of steam from flared nostrils, ignoring the spike of fear that tries to nuzzle into my callus-encrusted heart. I've often thought folk look like their pets. This is no exception. Both beast and male are built from slabs of brawn, casting shadows across the rust-colored sand. Their ember eyes penetrate my soul with cutthroat stares that snatch something inside my chest and grip it tight, leaving me with the knowledge that wiggling will be to my detriment. That the grip will only tighten until my eyes pop from their sockets and blood bursts from my mouth. They're both frightening, basking in their prime, both devastating to look at, in entirely different ways. I clear my throat, tossing a slop of saliva-laden hair off my face with a flick of my head, eyes narrowing on the king looking down at me with an expression as dry as our parched surroundings. No beast is tame enough to cradle a squirming meal in their maw if it's not meant for their young, and your beast looks like he eats, I say, nipping another glance at Rygun, wondering how many living things contributed to his hulking size. He would have crunched on me if he didn't like me a little bit. Ropes. Now. Khan continues to watch me, unmoving, not breaking a sweat despite the fierce sunshine beating upon the side of his face, cutting across his strong, striking features that threaten to unpick me from my murderous thoughts. Again. Quick, I'm getting burnt.
If you kill me, you'll be stuck in the Botanic Plains without a ride, without access to water, and with that skin you'll wither like a moon plume caught in the sun and be dead before aurora rise.
He grinds out, stating the obvious. I can already feel my skin chapping.
And that's if Rygun lets you live after he sees me bleeding out in the sand. He may like you now, but I can assure you his loyalty lies with me.
I scowl at the creature, who blows more puffs of smoke from his flared nostrils, a mighty rumble broiling in his chest that makes me picture being caught between his sabers and crunched into a mulch of bone shards and frothy blood.
Plus, you have no weapons, a festering pin in your shoulder, and if I'm not mistaken, you haven't eaten in almost 2 rises. How about we wave that white flag again and you suppress the urge to kill me until after you've feasted, bathed, and you're no longer suffering from an infection that's beginning to weave through your bloodstream?
He's so full of dragon shit. The only infection I'm suffering stems directly from your self-indignant presence.
Wrong.
His upper lip peels back from canines long and honed, making muscles tighten low in my belly. Strangely, he crouches, eclipsing the sun as he pulls the collar of my tunic with such force a button pops free. What are you? He stuffs his finger down the hole in my shoulder, the stab of pain like a fiery poker straight through muscle, sinew, bone. I scream, a grated burst I immediately regret. Nobody makes me scream. Certainly not him. His finger retreats with a squelch, and I snarl through bared teeth, heaving short, sharp breaths that do nothing to satiate the rage swelling in my chest like a roil of dragon flame. He sniffs his bloody finger, the next words powering out of him with such savagery they're almost tangible against my pebbling skin.
I can smell it.
Wet warmth bubbles from the freshly plundered wound while I study all the bits of him I'd like to slash and dash. I really want to kill you.
Perfectly aware.
He mumbles, flicking my blood off his hand.
But now is not the time.
I look at the beast at his back, extending his wings, basking in the sun, then cast my gaze farther abroad, our surroundings a stretch of rippled sand, bits of it being picked up and tossed around in copper eddies. The air above it ripples too, distorting the powder blue horizon littered with dusky moons almost close enough to reach up and cradle in my palms. Silver ribbons of aurora tangle with the rotund tombstones, a pretty embellishment for the otherwise scorched terrain. There are no hills, no trees, No stones or rocks or boulders. No signs of life. There's certainly no water. Just me, a king, and a dragon that's half the size of a mountain. Great.
A white flag is a white flag,
He says, and I cut my gaze back to him as he rests his elbows on his bent knees and tilts his head to the side.
May I free you from your shackles and trust that you won't disregard the rules of our engagement.
Probably not,
At least you're honest.
he mutters, heaving a low, resounding sigh. He reaches down the side of his boot and retrieves a bronze blade that's shaped like a petal. Fuck. Shoulda lied. I jerk against my ropes, hissing through clenched teeth as he brings it to my breast, slips it beneath the cord, and cuts. That segment of rope unravels, allowing me to pull my first deep breath since I was bound to the Creator's forsaken stake. My eyes must express my level of shock, because a glint of humor sparks in his ember orbs.
Did you think I was going to stab you, prisoner 73?
Of course. You saw how many skin slabs they slapped on the ground at my trial, and I'd be lying if I said that was all of them. You're obviously all heft and no brain. He chuffs, severing another rope. Another. Another. I roll off the stake, promptly face-planting in the sand again. He heaves me to a wobbly stand and brushes me off, then leans close, sniffing.
You're right. You do smell bad.
Screw you, I mutter, and he cocks a brow.
You wanted to kill me a moment ago. I can't keep up.
I snort laugh. Don't worry, few can.
Is that a challenge?
He asks, stuffing his blade back down his boot. No, but I will issue one to let me go.
Heartily decline.
Of course. I hope he doesn't mind when I heartily slit his throat. He unpins his cloak, pulling it from his shoulders, giving me an up-close view of the powerful way his broad, muscular body moves. My cheeks burn as he swathes me in the airy material, secures the pin beneath my chin, then flicks me on the nose.
Adorable.
I'm going to cut out your tongue with that blade in your boot. He whips the hood up over my head, shrouding me in shade.
I'd prefer you use your teeth, but beggars can't be choosers.
I frown, realization dawning slower than an aurora rise. An indignant scoff escapes me, though it quickly snips off when he crouches, grips my left ankle in one hand, clutches the chain in the other, and yanks, shoulders bulging. A link pops free and catapults through the air. Well, he repeats the process with my other ankle, severing the length of chain he flings to the side. You're good at that. I wave my hands at him, the metal tether draped between them jingling with the erratic motion. This next. He gives me a dry look and plucks a bit of rope off the ground. Merging my hands together, he slides my shackles farther up my arms, then binds my wrists, knotting it off. That's not what I meant. He pries the remaining chain free from my manacles, popping more links like they're made of clay.
I'm aware.
Damn. Underachiever. I see. No judgment here. Releasing a hearty rumble, he begins to stand, then throws his weight forward, wrapping his large arms around me. He flops me onto his back and lifts me like a sack of grain. What are you doing? I scream, hanging over his shoulder as he lumbers toward his dragon. My heart leaps so far up my throat I almost choke on it. Kun, no! I did not agree to this! His body stiffens, steps slowing, a low, grating sound coming from him.
Say it again.
What?
My name, Moonbeam. Say it again.
If it'll get me out of this saddle ride, I'll scream it to the sky until my voice box ruptures. Con! 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 Now put me down! Quick! Not. I see. This next. He gives me a dry crouches, grips my left ankle in one hand, clutches the chain in the other, and yanks, shoulders bulging. A link pop blade in your
Heartily declines.
sniffing.
You're right. You do smell bad.
Screw you, I mutter, and he cocks a brow.
You wanted to kill me a moment ago. I can't keep up.
I snort laugh. Don't worry, few can.
Is that a challenge?
He asks, stuffing his blade back down his boot. No, but I will issue one to let me go.
Heartily decline.
Of course. I hope he doesn't mind when I heartily slit his throat. He unpins his cloak, pulling it from his shoulders, giving me an up-close view of the powerful way his broad, muscular body moves. My cheeks burn as he swathes me in the airy material, secures the pin beneath my chin, then flicks me on the nose.
Adorable.
I'm going to cut out your tongue with that blade in your boot. He whips the hood up over my head, shrouding me in shade.
I'd prefer you use your teeth, but beggars can't be choosers.
I frown, realization dawning slower than an aurora rise. An indignant scoff escapes me, though it quickly snips off when he crouches, grips my left ankle in one hand, clutches the chain in the other, and yanks, shoulders bulging. A link pops free and catapults through the air. Well, he repeats the process with my other ankle, severing the length of chain he flings to the side. You're good at that. I wave my hands at him, the metal tether draped between them jingling with the erratic motion. This next. He gives me a dry look and plucks a bit of rope off the ground. Merging my hands together, he slides my shackles farther up my arms, then binds my wrists, knotting it off. That's not what I meant. He pries the remaining chain free from my manacles, popping more links like they're made of clay.
I'm aware.
Damn. Underachiever. I see. No judgment here. Releasing a hearty rumble, he begins to stand, then throws his weight forward, wrapping his large arms around me. He flops me onto his back and lifts me like a sack of grain. What are you doing? I scream, hanging over his shoulder as he lumbers toward his dragon. My heart leaps so far up my throat I almost choke on it. Con, no! I did not agree to this! His body stiffens, steps slowing, a low, grating sound coming from him.
Say it again.
What?
My name, Moonbeam. Say it again.
If it'll get me out of this saddle ride, I'll scream it to the sky until my voice box ruptures. Con! 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 Now put me down! Quick! He fills his lungs, his entire chest inflating, like he just took his first breath since he began a deep dive.
You didn't say please.
He finally says, then kicks forward again. What? Please!
Too late?
I'm going to shatter his bones and use them for toothpicks. He reaches the side of the heaving beast to where lengths of knotted rope dangle from its saddle, garnished with an array of foot loops, one of which he threads his boot into. Put me back in his mouth! He heaves us up the ropes, one jerking motion at a time, and I watch in wide-eyed horror as the ground drifts farther and farther away, giving up my wriggling struggle when I come to the gut-tumbling realization that I cannot squirm or slaughter my way out of this. Reaching the drape of patched-together hides that saddles the mammoth beast, Khan battles the final few loops, then tosses his leg over the saddle and thumps me into his lap. Straddling him, I look up into his eyes, mouth dropping open, battered breathless by his immense presence. He looks down upon me, his rough exhale pouring over my upturned face, the air between us becoming charged with a static that makes my skin pebble. Creators. Drenched in the smell of leather and the heady blend of his intoxicating scent, this tightening feeling low in my belly yearns for something every other part of me is utterly opposed to, and I consider whether it's prudent to ask this male if he'd like to fuck before I slit his throat. Probably shouldn't.
You have until the count of 10 to decide which way you want to sit, at which stage I'll kick Rygon into the sky, and you'll be stuck that way.
Khan grinds out past gritted teeth, my heart plummeting a little more with each condemning word. I open my mouth, about to spit something sharp, when he says,
1, 2,
shit. I wiggle, heaving my right leg up, getting a foothold atop his thigh.
3, 4.
I try wrestling to a stand, but lose my balance and flop back down again, face planting against his chest as he rumbles a deep
5.
"Count slower," I growl, flattening my hands upon his abdomen, introducing myself to a stack of muscles that feel more like rocks. My mouth dries.
6.
He says, his voice gravel against my pebbling skin.
7.
Definitely need to move. I kick my foot up again and shove to a wobbly stand.
8.
I turn so I'm facing forward, heart pounding hard and fast as I glance around us, my feet tingling with the sudden realization of how high up we are. That this is our starting point.
9.
Creators, slay this male. I let my feet slide either side of the saddle, landing perfectly between his legs so hard I garner a deep grunt from him that brings me a burst of satisfaction. 10, I chirp, and he clears his throat, reaching between us to readjust himself, no doubt throbbing with the wrong kind of ache. I smile. Feel free to drop me off at the nearest village. I can find my way from there, I say, deciding it's a good time to strike now that the male's cock is bruised. Figure I have 2 ways to relieve myself of his presence: kill him or make myself disposable.
Like it or not,
He grinds out, gripping my waist and lifting me, settling me into a more comfortable position, so flush against him my cheeks burn for reasons other than the stifling heat.
you're coming with me to Dom.
My heart pitches. Dom. So few go to the Burns capital and return. So fucking few. Probably because they all end up inside the beast I'm currently seated atop. Either that, or the city has jaws and claws and teeth much sharper than that of the one I just marginally escaped. I open my mouth, about to spit a barbed rebuttal, when Khan reaches past me and grips the tug ropes.
Gotunda, Rygon. Gotunda!
The beast heaves beneath us, blowing a steaming breath as he pushes up from his crouched position, making me feel as if the entire world is swaying side to side.
Hold the leather strap.
Khan rumbles near my ear, sending tingles down the side of my neck and making my breath hitch. Snarling, I grip the damn strap. You know what I hate?
Being told what to do?
He answers, quick as a blink. Exactly.
Well,
He says, giving the strip of leather a yank, like he's testing my grip on the thing, something I find deeply offensive seeing as I don't do anything by halves.
it's a relief to know you possess a drip of self-preservation.
I'd rather possess that blade down the inside of your boot, I grouse as the beast folds his wings flush against his body. I sense the flow of energy building in Rygon's bunched haunches before he leaps into the sky with a booming slash of his wings, gravity thrusting me into Khan's chest so hard all the breath bursts from my lungs. We propel up. Up. Any words I had are swallowed into the depths of my tumbling guts, my grip tightening on the strap. My head tucks back into the crook of Khan's throat, his heart a fierce sledge against my spine, powering in unison with the thump of Raigun's wings. We whisk through a wispy tuft of cloud, then level out, the entire world seeming to regain its balance. I pull my first breath since we shoved off the sand, blown out with a shaken exhale. I miss the dragon's mouth. It was wet, it reeked, and there was a high chance of being swallowed, but at least I wasn't clinging to life by a single strap of leather, pressed close to a male who smells too good to flay.
You okay?
Khan asks, close to my ear, and every cell in my body prickles with awareness. I dare a peek over Raigun's side, expecting to be severed with fear as I take in the world below, the barren plains stretching far and wide in all directions like a ripple of rusty water. Instead, something tangible swells within my chest, something that makes me want to spread my arms, tip my head, and release a deep belly laugh that's raw and real and so fucking wholesome it makes me want to cry.
Answer me, Moonbeam.
There's an edge to his voice that whips me from my reverie, reminds me that I'm a prisoner of yet another vicious Vagor, dancing from one shackle to the next. The world shreds past beneath us while I mull over Khan's question. Am I okay? Yes, I whisper, cradling this strange, giddy feeling with a gentleness I didn't realize I possessed, worried it'll break if I squeeze too hard. I'm okay. Diary entry. Elowin Nevan. Age 18 phases. 5,039 phases after stone. The creators are so quiet now, their voices vacant echoes, barely loud enough to grasp. I'm not sure why. Perhaps the ether stone is taking so much of me there's little left to listen with. That's how it feels. Like my soul's being suckled through the diadem's web of tendrils now magnetized to my skull. I hate it. How Ma survived this for over 100 phases, I'll never know. But perhaps I do understand why it took her so long to bring Hadeon into this world. Then me. Perhaps I understand why she was crying in the snow so many phases ago, when my world was small and my heart felt full and whole. I barely have the energy to breathe, let alone eat. Last cycle, I certainly didn't have the energy to help with the preparations for the committal. To stand on my own 2 feet, while Nathe and Akeri blew plumes of aqua flame on Ma and Pa's pyres, committing their bodies back to the elements. Instead, I sat in Hadeon's chair and watched them burn, my heart so raw from cycles of clutching them close that I almost wheeled myself into the fire too. Then came Hadeon's turn. Rather than blow flames onto his body, Alum scooped him up, tilled her wings, then tipped her head to the sky and lifted off the ground with my brother clutched against her. She soared unsteadily toward the deep dark where her ancestors rest, then curled into a ball, tucked Hadeon beneath her gammy wing, and solidified before my eyes, giving herself to death rather than live an eternal life without the one we both loved so much. Or perhaps she just knew how much he hated being alone. Everyone else went inside to feast in honor of my lost ones, while I lay in the snow and sang to Hadeon's moon, tracing the outline of that small, misshapen wing. Until Slotra came, settled beside me, and curled her tail into a fluffy nest I fell asleep within. I haven't woken from this terror yet. I'm losing hope that I ever will. Ma and Pa's aides say I have very few options. that the folk of Arithia won't accept a queen so weakened by the Ether Stone unless I'm bound with someone who can wield more than 2 elemental songs. And even so, I'm not yet old enough to rule. There's to be a meeting in Bothame where my fate will be decided by the Tri-Council. Of course, I can't attend and speak for myself because princesses are to remain mute and veiled in public until their binding ceremony, something Ma and Pa never enforced. But they're not here anymore. It's just me, and I'm certain the sky is falling. Rave. Chapter 32. The wisps of cloud burn off as we coast closer to the sun, Rygun's head stretched toward it like a hunter stalking his prey. I decide that's not far from the truth, considering the Saberscythe spawning grounds sit directly beneath the gigantic ball of fire. I tug the hood of Khan's cloak down, tucking deep into its shady hollow to avoid the sun's harsh rays. Entombed in his molten musk, I find a smooth, grounding sort of comfort that does things to me. Makes me picture sweaty, snarling warriors scorched beneath this overbearing blaze. A blood-heating smell that muddies my mind and makes me want to slap myself. Hard. He may have saved me from the Colosseum and had my back mended, but he's still a tyrant. Based on the way he stuffed his finger in my wound and made me scream, I'd say he has the same brutal streak as his kin. Probably worse, knowing my luck. He wants me for something. I just have to work out what. Bottom line, I can't let him take me to Dom. Something low in my gut tells me it'll swallow me whole. The feared Duath believe I'm dead. The Fade King and his guild of nobles believe I'm dead. Presumably. I just have to find a way to escape Khan so I'm free to hunt wreck Zaros, then slice and dice him for murdering Essie and whipping my back to shreds. Vengeance crackles through my veins, making the tips of my fingers itch. A shiver rakes up my spine, and I use the sharp of my thumbnail to scratch at the skin on the side of another. Rygun coasts to the left, tipping me into Khan's arm, usurping me from my spot between his legs. I clear my throat, shuffling back into place, his powerful body a mountain stacked around me, like I'm a fall of snow tucked between his crevices.
There's a sun veil in the hood,
He rumbles, his accent so thick it's like it was ripped from the creator's mouths, not tumbled by the tides of time like so many of those who live in Gore. So unlike mine, forged in dark places where words were spat, hissed, and shrieked, where the only softness belonged to the tight embrace of somebody who no longer exists.
If you roll it down, you'll be able to look around while we fly and better anticipate Rygun's motions.
The cut of his tone implies everything he's not saying. That I won't almost plummet to death every time Rygun banks or hits a current of air that forces him to dodge, dip, or sway. Tentatively, I loosen my hold on the strap and reach up, frowning as I blindly pinch and pull at the hood's hem, finding buttons I'm able to wedge free and release a roll of fabric that falls before my face. Huh. I lift my chin and dare a glance around, the material a fine sheen that casts me in a mask of shade and even allows me to look almost directly at the sun without fear of going blind. I take in the vast expanse of our surroundings through widening eyes. The rippling stretch of sand has given way to sun-scorched dirt torn through with a ribbon of bright blue silk that I suspect is a large body of
There's the River Acht,
Khan announces as I marvel at its wide, interloping weaves, the way it sparkles in the light. It threads as far as the eye can see, stretching for the sun, back toward the darkening sky in the south. something I confirm by peeking beneath Khan's arm. Tall, lanky trees cling to the rusty, sun-crusted banks, the tips of their numerous branches boasting blades of orange foliage that look sharp enough to slice. I even spot the odd golden worm-like creatures slithering through the dirt, leaving a wiggly trail. I look to the right, a few tendrils of the aurora still glinting over the horizon, though mostly it's now out of sight. Guess we'll find somewhere to stop for slumber soon. I'm just looking at the river again, fawning at the way the water appears to flow so freely between the chapped plains, when I notice Khan put a little pressure on the left tug rope. Raigun's right wing begins to rise. Anticipating the canting motion, I grip the strap and lean into the sway, finding the movement almost natural, this time managing to keep my seat between Khan's powerful thighs. The sun now beats upon the right side of our bodies, warming my cloak as we're carried toward a lofty band of auburn mountains stretched far and wide, north to south, emerging from the distant haze of dust torn up by the wind. Where are we going?
There.
Khan says, pointing toward a distinct dip in the Mammoth Range, which expands a little more with each thudump of Raigun's wings. Scorched earth gives way to lush, russet jungle, the likes of which I've only seen in paintings on shop walls in Gore. The heavily vegetated mountains before us so large and vast, they make Raigun feel like a pinprick in comparison. The only ranges I've ever seen have been sheer and sharp, but these are the opposite. Like somebody ladled scoops of stone, then dumped them on each other in big mounded heaps, clouds beginning to gather around their heads like puffs of gray hair. Raigun banks, aiming for a crevice, its soaring, jagged edges severed by the rushing river far below.
Hold on,
Khan growls, gathering both tug ropes in one hand, threading the other arm around my waist. My spine stiffens as he tips his body forward, forcing me to do the same, wedging me between himself and the hard-packed saddle, pitching my pulse into a bellowing roar. "Why are you not steering?"
because he knows where to go.
Khan says upon the left side of my hood. Huh? The tightening of his dense body is the only warning I get before we pitch sideways. The motion so rapid my innards corkscrew the opposite direction. They finally manage to catch up, though just as they do, Raigun tips the other way. Back again and again and again. Skimming past sheer, rust-colored cliffs, the river appears to have worn its path between, like it's reaching for something deep. Perhaps the other side. Perhaps if it gets there, the world will split in two. Another tip. Khan's inhale crushing his body so close to mine that I feel him everywhere. The way he flexes as he prepares for the next maneuver. The way his arm tightens around my waist, muscles bulging, clinging to me like I'm going to somehow slip free and plunge to my doom. Raigun battles the gorge with such precision, I realize he's done this many times, tucking his wings when the pathway becomes narrow, dropping momentarily before throwing them out again. We come to a dead end, water pouring down the rounded mountainscape above in wide, gushing steps, gathering in a large basin at its foot. The teal pool glimmers like a gemstone beneath diagonal beams of sun, the northern side cast in a deep pocket of eternal shade. Raigun swoops almost low enough to drag his tail through the water, scooping skyward, Khan's tensing body and my firm grip on the strap the only things stopping me from ripping off the saddle, skimming down the length of the beast, and plummeting into the pool. A smattering of water pelts my cloak as we shoot up, then levels so fast a yelp slips up my throat. Raigun thrashes his wings, lowering us gently, then all at once. We thud upon the ground so hard my canine pierces my bottom lip. The taste of copper fills my mouth. Khan pulls back, ripping me with him. He flips the hood, tilting my head until I'm staring straight up at the underside of his scruff-covered chin. He clicks his tongue, the rough pad of his thumb dragging across my bottom lip with such tenderness. Every muscle in my body poises for a few rigid moments before my brain has a chance to recalibrate. Tyrant King, my captor, shoved his finger in my wound. Snarling, I bat his hand away and push to a wobbly stand. The insides of my thighs so chafed and achy I immediately buckle. He catches me, making a deep rumbling sound as he flips me over with effortless ease and lumps me on his back, drawing a dense oomph from my tormented abdomen now folded over his stone-hard shoulder. Being treated like a sack of grain is getting very old very quickly.
Your hips are sharp,
He grumbles, and I bash my fists against his back, knowing there's next to no point. Doing it anyway. I'll show you something sharp.
Every word that comes out of your mouth is sharp, Moonbeam.
He one-handedly unbuckles one of his saddlebags and tosses it over his other shoulder.
I'm half dead already, bleeding out at your feet. Can't you see?
I scoff. Please. Kicking up his leg, he eases down Rygun's ropes, my hood flopping so far over my head I can't see anything but Khan's brown tunic stretched over his tensing back muscles. He leaps the last few feet to the ground, then he's stalking away from the sound of Rygun's deep, resonating breaths, his booted footsteps softened by something I'm unable to see because of this creator's damn cloak. He moves down some steps, dumps the bag, and flips me off his shoulder. My feet land on the ground, though I have barely a moment to gather myself before the cloak is unpinned from around my throat and whipped away. What are you? He grips me around the waist, lifts me, and tosses me through the air. For 2 tight moments, I picture myself plummeting down a crevice and straight into the den of a velvet trog, about to be bound in slimy tendrils of excretion pulled from the gaping wounds in its palms. For 2 tight moments, until I dunk into a body of cool, crisp water. I scramble, kicking and thrashing, certain I'm about to be consumed by some waterborne creature that no doubt likes the taste of fey flesh, until I stretch my legs down and plant them on a pebbled ground. Oh. Shoving up, I push my head above the water and gasp for breath, just in time to see a bar of soap spearing at my head. I dodge it, then scramble to scoop it out of the water and throw it back the way it came, the bar thudding against Khan's chest, leaving a soapy smear on his tunic.
You smell bad. Soap fixes that,
he says, picking it up and tossing it back at me, splashing me in the face. I snatch it, pelting it at his crotch. You need it more than I do.
I've got my own fucking soap,
he growls, catching it just before it can make obliterating contact with his cock. Oh. Failing to muster any more words to wield, I poke my tongue out at him instead. He returns the gesture, and the corner of my mouth threatens to lift. The king just stuck his tongue out at me. Muttering beneath his breath, he tosses the soap again and spins, kicks off his boots, then uses one arm to reach down and pull his tunic up over his head. My heart skips a beat, mouth popping open. The scars on his arms extend across every visible inch of his broad, muscular back, covered in so many small, sable dots of ink that it appears almost entirely blacked out. And upon the dusky expanse, a constellation of white stars and beautiful bouldered moons. Almost 24 of them, both near and far. Most the size of an eye, though a few are the size of my fist. But they're not just any moons. My breath hitches as I take in this small, wonky one I love so much, sketched so exquisitely I can make out its misshapen wing. Something inside me stills as the backs of my eyes prickle, certain I'm staring out my window back at home, looking upon the glorious sight, one I never thought I'd see again. I almost reach out and touch it, almost trace the dips and peaks of its visible wing, the delicate swoop of its long neck, and the silken tendrils that hang off its jowls and around the back of its head. I'm so caught up in the trance that it takes me too long to notice the other moons upon the darkened expanse, ones I also recognize, ones that crowd my favorite little moon in real life, like Khan sat beneath that patch of sky while somebody mimicked the view with an inked etching stick. Almost perfectly. There's one moon that's out of place, the biggest, a silver moon I've never seen before, perched just beneath his right shoulder blade beside my little wonky one. I frown. That one doesn't exist. Not anymore. That's the one that fell.
Not to shock you into strangling me with your hair,
He says dryly, injecting the perfectly viable thought into my head.
but as you so dutifully pointed out, I need to bathe.
He tips his head.
Feel free to evacuate the west side of the plunge pool so I can use the waterfall to rinse myself to your standards.
You'll be at it a while, I say, scooping up my soap and edging to the right, nipping another glance at the little moon on his back. Hope you have refreshments in those saddlebags. You're gonna need them.
You really do say the sweetest things, Moonbeam.
Thanks. I try my hardest.
Hate to see you not trying.
He drones, yanking at what I realize are his pant fastenings when they're pushed past his muscular ass, revealing his dusky undergarments.
I don't think my poor heart could handle it. Now, unless you want an eyeful, I suggest turning your attention elsewhere.
I'm not giving you my back. I growl, my words chased by his airy sigh.
Suit yourself. But if I wanted to hurt you in any way, I had plenty of chances in the cell I rescued you from.
He spins. My eyes widen, the organ in my chest thumping to a halt. He's stacked together like boulders, his abdominals so defined they hardly look real. And though all that's impressive, it's far from the reason my lungs have suddenly stopped working. More pale scars mar almost every inch of skin on the front of him, too, both big and small, long and short. Some are fine-cut lines that are perfectly predictable, like they've come from the slash of a blade. Some are thick and messy, healed in such an angry manner that I can almost feel whatever it was that sawed through his flesh. There's distinct stab wounds and other marks that look like something toothy lunged for a bite and carved off curls of flesh. My gaze narrows on the round, flat, black and silver carving that hangs from a braided strap of leather bound around his neck, absorbing the intricate design. A saber scythe and a moon plume locked in an embrace. I frown, smothering the strange urge to ask if I can take a closer look. He kicks off his pants, grabs a small satchel from his saddlebag, then begins striding toward the west side of the pool. My gaze drops to his undergarments, material that does nothing to hide the outline of his manhood hanging thick and heavy between muscular thighs lashed in the welted remnants of old... My breath hitches. I whirl around, my cheeks attacked with a flush of heat. Burns. He has burns. I hear him dump something on the shore, the water disturbed by a wave of ripples. I cast a glance over my shoulder to where Khan is now wading toward a trickling waterfall that feeds into this small plunge pool, cushioned from all angles by fluffy foliage the color of copper. The squiggly lines of melted flesh look as though a fiery serpent lashed around his thigh, more than once. The lump in my chest feels heavier than usual. I wonder how he got them. They look almost strained, like they happened when he was small, and the scar tissue stretched as he grew. I shake my head, jerking away from the thought. Tyrant King, dangerous, has a very hungry dragon. Again, I peruse his many other scars while he lathers himself with his own bar of soap, frothing the thick black hair under his arms. He's a warrior, and the biggest male I've ever seen in every way, shape, and form. He's probably looked death in the eye more times than I have. Damn. Getting away might be harder than I originally anticipated. I'm not opposed to challenges, but I prefer them when I'm not already on the back foot, bound and with an iron pin lodged in my fucking shoulder. He works the bubbles through his beard and hair, stepping under the fall of water to rinse off while I fail to manhandle the bar of soap beneath my heavy tunic so I can wash myself. Hard with my hands tied together in such an awkward position.
Bet you're wishing you lied about your murderous intentions when I offered to free your hands earlier.
Khan drones. You have no idea, I mutter, also wishing I had a spare change of clothes so I could rip this tunic off my body. Finally be done with this scratchy cell garb. The soap slips from my hands just as I was about to wedge it up beneath the fabric, and I groan, settling instead for scrubbing my face and hair, working the bind from my thick, matted locks for the first time in a while. So focused on the task of trying to untangle my sodden tendrils, it takes me too long to register the off sensation tickling my skin, making it pebble. I frown. This water tingles,
Dunk lower.
Khan says, tipping back, allowing the waterfall to wash over his head again before easing free. With a dash of both hands, he pushes his shoulder-length hair back off his face, next running them through his beard.
It has healing properties.
Well, that's handy. He stalks through the pool, making for the shore, beads of water peppered across his beautiful body. I do as he said, needing my strength if I'm going to make a swift escape when the opportunity strikes, dunking low enough that the ripples he makes fold over my shoulders. He reaches for the small satchel he left on the bank, loosening the leather drawstring. Cradling the pouch, he digs through the contents until he reveals a pair of prongs, yanking my heart into my throat. Fuck, I forgot about them. I dunk so low the water's lapping at my chin as I scurry backward, keeping my narrowed eyes firmly locked on his, that flinty stare now puncturing me like a couple of arrowheads. If you stick those in me, I'm going to knee you in the cock.
That's an improvement on being slaughtered,
he says, charging through the water. You'll certainly wish you were dead, I warn through clenched teeth, though all my confidence dissolves the moment my back collides with the stone wall that cups this side of the pool. Shit.
There is only one thing that could take me back to that dark place,
he mutters, such a hard punch of honesty in his words that my heart stills, some innate part to me pausing, listening, wondering.
and I will never let that happen again,
he finishes, drawing closer, eyeing me like I'm getting in the way of that very prerogative, of this strange promise he seems to have made to himself. What's that got to do with the pin in my shoulder?
Everything,
he growls, snatching me by the collar and yanking me into his atmosphere. In the same motion, I thrust my bound hands down, fist his undergarments, and hold him exactly where I need, my knee poised to spear forward and charge straight into his cock. Considering the size of my target, I'm more than confident in my chances to land a crippling blow. We both freeze, energy prickling between us that has every cell in my body standing on edge. His gaze softens, and he releases an exhale that's tangible against my skin.
It's been a long ride. I'm not untying your wrists because I'm in no mood to suture myself together this slumber, and you can't pick that pin from your own shoulder. It's wedged too deep in the bone.
I open my mouth to speak, but he cuts me off.
Your lips are already a shade paler than they usually are, your heart pumping at a faster rate. By this time next rise, you'll have a fever. You'll feel lethargic, heavy. By the following rise, you'll be dead.
I frown. I can't smell the infection he boasts carnal knowledge of. And unfortunately for both of us, trust is not a word I readily wield.
So what's it to be? The easy way or the hard? I'd prefer not to brace you against the wall if I can avoid it, but I certainly will if you give me no other choice.
Holding his fiery gaze, I cling on with clenched fists and stony pride. It's not that I don't want the pin out. I do. I'd just prefer to do it myself. The moment you let your captors weave their weapons between the cracks in your armor, you're already slit, guts spilling, heart weakening, dying.
You can't be strong if you're dead,
He murmurs, quiet enough that even Claude would struggle to catch it. I sigh, his firm logic a blow to my spine. I hate the sensation of my vertebrae crumbling as I loosen my hold on his undergarments and turn, resting my cheek against the mossy stone, watching the burbling waterfall pour down the jutting clefts. How do you know about the pool's healing properties? I ask, trying to distract from the fact that I just yielded to this male and accepted his help. Again. It chafes. I'm sure he's collecting these favors owed, preparing to shove them down my throat at his convenience. Like when he needs somebody suffocated from the inside out, or disembodied, or something else I haven't yet considered. The possibilities are endless. Khan clears his throat, easing my collar off my wounded shoulder.
I spent most of my adolescence and a number of my later phases as a warrior of the Jokal clan. They have always nested close to these mountains and recently claimed the crater formed by the fallen saber-scythe moon, Orva.
I frown, his scars suddenly making a lot more sense.
I used to sneak here during the slumber, soak until I no longer bled, then ride back before the aurora rose.
You're the king, I murmur as he threads his prongs into my wound, making all the nerves beneath my tongue tingle. My next words are wrangled past clenched teeth. Why did you spend most of your adolescence in a warrior clan?
Because my pa sent me there when I was 9 after it was discovered I could only hear Ignos and Balder.
He mutters, pincers digging through my flesh while a warm leak of blood dribbles down my shoulder, leaching into the water.
Said that if I survived their harsh and grueling training methods, I might earn his respect.
My heart squeezes painfully. Creators. If that male were still alive, I'd slit him from chin to navel, then braid his fucking entrails while he was still conscious. What happened to him?
I cut off his head, then fed him to Raigan.
The words land like a kick to the ribs, almost winding me. Deserved, but why?
Because I was mourning someone I loved very much. I discovered my pa had done something unforgivable, and I took her revenge because I thought she no longer could. Now, I have regrets.
What was her name?
Elwyn.
He murmurs and pulls, yanking the pin free. I open my mouth in a silent scream, certain he just siphoned half my skeleton through the tiny hole. Fucking ouch. I spin, gaze dropping to the bloody thing pinched between us, Khan studying the length, perhaps checking to make sure it didn't snap on its way out. That name echoing in my mind with the blaring throbs of pain still rioting through me. Elowen. I swish some water into my wound while he dunks the pin, running his finger up and down the length. My gaze narrows on his amulet, absorbing the intricate design, the two dragons embracing in such an intimate way that I wonder if it's a symbol of their lost love. A wave of something sloshes through me. Sadness? Envy? No, of course not. What happened to her? His eyes flick to mine.
She died.
He mutters with such finality the words feel like a shiv to the gut. He storms from the water, pulls on fresh clothes from his pack, and tucks the others away. He stuffs his feet into his boots, grabs his cloak, then charges up the stone stairway toward Rygun, leaving me to marinate in a blossom of blood and unease. Rave. Chapter 33. Drenched, tingling all over, and with a now itchy shoulder wound, I follow the path Khan took back up the red stone stairway, frowning at the tufts of copper grass that have sprouted in the cracks, pausing to run my hand over the soft blades. Seeing foliage this color is strange. In the fade, anything that manages to sprout from beneath the snow is a vibrant shade of green. And though I like it, I like this better. Looks sturdy, harder to kill. Maybe if I lived here, I'd actually be able to keep some form of vegetation alive. Something smooth and round catches my eye, my gaze sliding to a dark, ruddy saber-scythe scale half the size of my hand, resting amongst the grass. Probably Rygun's, perhaps flicked from a leg during one of his previous sheds. It's here, on this step, and I'm entirely unsupervised. Maybe I'm not so cursed after all? I grab it, cutting a glance at the top of the stairs while using my fingers to wedge the scale down between my wrists, hiding it from view, my heart thumping so loud I'm half convinced every pair of ears in the jungle can hear it. I pull a steadying breath, victory bursting through my veins with such potency I almost do a dance. Nothing to see here. A rumbling sound has my gaze whipping skyward to the dense clouds gathering overhead. My brows pull together. I've heard it rains here, where the air is well above freezing. These mountainous areas a lush spawning ground for drenching storms. All I know is the slice of sleet and the soft, gentle fall of snow. The pale clouds bulge and swell, and I shiver despite the sticky heat, an electric current caught in the air I can't seem to shake. I crest the rise just in time to watch Rygun leap over the edge of the massive grassy plateau, his barbed tail the last thing to disappear, the entire mountain seeming to shift with his displacement. There's a clamorous roar, the thudump of his wings, and then he's scooping skyward. Khan stalks toward the edge with something round and wiggly caught in his fist, scowling as he watches the beast carve off through the gorge and disappear from sight. Where's he going? I ask, moving closer, weighing my chances of reaching the male in time to shove him off the cliff.
Like you,
Khan mutters, waving the shiny black bug at me.
Rygun is allergic to help.
I frown, eyeing the creature, its spindly legs waggling, claw-like pincers protruding from what I suppose is its face nipping at the air. What's that?
A tick I found nudged up under Rygun's armpit where his scales are still hardening from his last shed.
He flicks the thing at his feet, crushing it with the heel of his boot. It pops, purple innards splatting across the grass.
If left unattended, they release a toxin that can turn a dragon rabid.
He cuts me a hard look, shaded by thick lashes and the darkening sky.
There is no cure for an animal intent on torching cities and slaying everything in its path except a swift and merciful death.
My blood chills. Torching cities. Slaying everything. Swift and merciful death. None of it stacks up for a king who apparently condones that from his beast, at least according to rumors. Confusion wrestles through me, my gaze dropping to the purple splat on the ground.
Come.
Khan hefts a saddlebag over his shoulder, wrapping his arms around another and heading toward a path etched through the dense foliage ahead.
If you want food, that is.
He tosses back at me.
Can't escape until you've eaten. You'll pass out and wake up right back where you started.
He's got a point. Sighing, I follow his lead, the ropes around my wrists now swollen with moisture. I think you accidentally tied this too tight, I say, looking left to right, trying to trace the chirping sounds that keep scratching through the air, like somebody's dragging sticks up and down many ribbed, hollow logs.
I assure you,
He says, kicking a fallen branch off the track like it personally offends him.
That was no accident.
If my hand falls off, so will my iron cuffs, and then I'll call upon Claude to suffocate you in your sleep.
Such pretty promises,
he muses, his tone so dry it could wick all the moisture from my body. The path opens to another plateau, though this one supports a small stone dwelling that looks like it grew straight from the ground. It's got 2 levels, bearing oddly shaped windows, not round or square, but somewhere in the middle. The dwelling is crooked one way at the bottom, the other way on the second floor, the roof peaked. The walls are knobbled in places and dipped in others, like little thumbs pressed them into place. I pause, transfixed by it, a smile catching the corner of my mouth. It's like a youngling drew the building on a piece of parchment, then peeled it off and whispered life into its walls, giving it the strength and substance to stand. This south wall boasts a makeshift trellis of crisscrossed branches clothed in a vine heavy with fat purple molly fruit, their scent zesting the warm air. Beneath it are rows of raised garden beds, each bearing a flush of frilly vegetables, some of which appear to have gone to seed. My gaze lifts, sweeping over the structure, unable to shake the feeling that this place isn't attended as much as it once was, despite the warm sensation that fills my chest just looking at it. I wonder what song it sings, picturing it a deep, rumbling, happy one, more content than a regular slab of stone. I wonder if Claude twirls past its rounded edges, sipping from bits of its serenity. Most of all, I wonder why just looking at it makes the backs of my eyes sting. Blisters of emotion, I pop faster than Khan popped that tick. He moves between the garden beds, drops his laden bags on the ground, then grips a lush tuft of vegetation around the neck. He rips a kennet root from the heaving dirt, its squiggly length dusted in rust-colored soil that falls back to the ground as he shakes it off, then thumps it against my chest. Frowning, I curl my arms around the vegetable, cradling it while he repeats the process, over and over, adding to the growing pile until I can hardly see over the top of it. Are you cooking Raigun vegetable soup? I mutter, wondering how I'm expected to see where I'm walking with my arms packed so full.
I'm making enough so we don't have to stop at any villages before we reach Dom,
he tells me, dumping something that's particularly hard to balance upon the pile and almost undoing me.
I'd prefer not to be seen with you, if I can avoid it.
Fuck you too, Khan Vagor. I'm not particularly fond of being seen with you, either. Not unless I'm toting a pike with your head on the end. He lumps another vegetable on the pile without shaking it off, dusting me in soil that peppers my hair and clings to my damp skin. Maybe he's getting sick of me. Good. I'll keep agitating him until he drops his guard, then make a move. I quite like my chances of surviving in these mountains, given the abundance of water and fertile vegetation. In fact, I'll probably thrive, gather my strength as I move south. I think these mountains finally kneel somewhere near Bogeth. Perhaps if I charm a full-grown molten maw, I can easily hunt Rexaros. My options are endless now that I'm free. Well, my thoughts drift to my rope-bound wrists, to the nulling iron cuffs still locked around my arms and ankles. Almost free. First, I have to get away from this male and his dragon and these filthy creators' damn vegetables. And this cozy little house with its pretty, idyllic view and a warmth that tells me it's held so much more happiness than I'll ever understand.
I think we have enough.
Khan rumbles, placing a flush of herbs atop the pile before I hear him gather his saddlebags, the sound of his heavy bootsteps making my ears twitch.
Follow me.
How?
Tether yourself to the alluring tone of my voice.
He drawls, and I roll my eyes, tentatively following the sound of his steps instead, sliding my bare feet through the fluffy grass at a slow and steady pace in the effort not to trip. I crash right into the back of him and dust myself in another layer of dirt, suppressing a cough so I don't drop anything. I wait for him to place his bags on the ground, then unlock the door, hearing the squeal of metal hinges before he shifts out of my way. I'm about to step into the dwelling when he says,
Wait, I'll unpack you first. Don't want you dragging more dirt across the rug than necessary.
"Ever heard of a bucket? You just threw me in a pool and tossed a bar of soap at my head. Now I'm more filthy than I was before."
No.
He grinds out, relieving me of my pile one bulbous, overgrown root vegetable at a time.
Before, you smelled like spew, rage, and dead things. Now you smell like soil. This smell calms me.
You don't seem particularly calm. He removes the final vegetable, transferring it into a large wooden bowl with all the rest of the produce.
I'm calm.
He cuts me a dark look.
You've just been lucky enough to avoid witnessing my other temperaments.
Yet. The unsaid word slams between us like a gavel. I hold his pointed stare, clumps of dirt rolling down my cheek and falling from my jawline. I, too, have many temperaments I'd like to test against his not calm. Grunting, he severs our stare off and strides through the room. I attempt to brush myself down, flicking more dirt onto the grass while I take in the dwelling's cozy, eclectic interior, rich with a soft assortment of organic furnishings, mostly in burn tones. Burnt orange, warm umber, black, bronze. A large kitchen takes up half the floor, bearing 3 long benches that run the walls in the shape of a giant U. There's a butcher block that breaks the space in two, the right half of the room garnished with 2 low cedars and a small table, all without any gaps beneath, like they were grown from the ground, embellished with plump cushions and tufted throws. A crooked staircase on the right leads to what must be the second level. My gaze cuts to the windows, tawny glass that's distorting to look through, quirky and organic, like the rest of this tiny home. What really catches my eye are the stone carvings lining the windowsills. Saber scythes in all shapes and sizes, though no bigger than my fist. No two were the same, some bearing more tusks than others, more or less spears adorning the tips of their tails, almost as if they have little lives and personalities of their own. "What is this place?" I ask, stuck on the threshold.
It was Ma's retreat.
Khan says from his spot before the basin, rinsing a vegetable beneath the gushing tap. He places it in a different bowl, then grabs another, drenching it. Was. I didn't know his ma had passed. Have never researched the Burns' reigning history beyond the fact that the three Vagor brothers each rule one of the three kingdoms. Now I wish I had. I glance around, failing to shift the heaviness now sitting on my chest, crushing my ability to breathe properly. Is there somewhere else I can spend this slumber? He pauses what he's doing, turning his head the slightest amount as he says,
Somewhere else.
Feels wrong to step into a female's warm, homely dwelling when I've fantasized about killing her son. This feels like a family space, I murmur, taking in the artwork littering the walls, the crooked alcoves and shelves packed full of bits and pieces that can only be precious memorabilia. I'm not family. Khan's coarse growl fills the space so abruptly I jolt, stare whipping back to him as he says,
Get in the dwelling, prisoner 73, or you'll miss out on this meal.
His shoulders appear taut and stiff, and there's a tension in the air that makes it hard to inhale. Part of me wants to tell him to choke on the order he just gave me and die a painful death. But then my stomach rumbles loud enough to wake a sleeping dragon. He raises a brow. I roll my eyes, chew my bottom lip, try to wriggle this situation into a spot that fits comfortably beneath my ribs. I don't know a lot about Northern traditions, but I once read that it's considered rude not to offer something in exchange for shelter. Maybe that's the answer, and maybe I shouldn't shed Khan's blood while staying here. That would feel wrong, I think. I have nothing to gift in exchange for the time spent under your ma's roof. There's a moment of utter stillness before Khan turns his head a little more, just enough for our eyes to meet.
Your name will do.
My name. I open my mouth, shutting it as I reconsider, then shake my head and blurt, Rave. All the color drains from his face. He pulls a breath, slow, like he's consuming a meal he's been looking forward to for longer than I care to admit.
Just Rave.
Another name sizzles through my soul like a burning scream. Firelark, Firelark, Firelark. Just Rave, I say, stuffing the other down. Far away. Gone. He nods slowly, the ball in his throat rolling.
Well, thank you for the offering,
He says, followed by a soft
Rave. Please, enter my ma's dwelling.
He handles my name with such care and precision a shiver rakes up and down my spine, a sensation I try to ignore, stepping over the threshold and into this space that feels much like a warm hug. Perhaps the reason it chafes. Haven't had one of those since... Clearing my throat, I lift my chin and move toward the butcher block, sitting atop one of the three knobbly stools that each appear to be carved from a single stump of wood, placing my bound hands on the counter. Khan resumes his rinsing, time ticking by. He finishes cleaning the vegetables, dices them with a blade I duly note the location of, then piles them into a large pot with water, herbs, and salt. He sets it on the stove and clunks a lid on it. He opens the small grated door of the stove's plump metal belly, then pulls a weld from his pocket and flicks the hood. I cast my attention elsewhere as he whispers a sizzling word that coaxes a bulb of flame through the opening, kindling the prepackaged pile of sticks into a roaring flame. Closing the metal grate, he turns, his warm gaze roaming the side of my face while I stare out one of the windows to the world beyond. The room darkens by the moment, more and more clouds crowding the sky, sponging most of the light, bar the flickers of orange spilling through the grill. He snaps the lid back on his weld.
You don't like fire.
I don't like males with cocks bigger than their brains. I slay him with a stare I hope cuts the head off his observation. Unfortunately, that eliminates half the population. Silence bleeds between us, a victim of my slashing ire. Arms crossed, he watches me, unblinking, unyielding. I watch him with the same intensity, sharpening more barbs to sling should he decide to have another pick at the subject. One that is, in fact, none of his fucking business. He clicks his tongue, then moves around the butcher block. Perfectly still, I watch from my periphery as he lumbers to the door and retrieves his saddlebags, dumping them on the long, cushioned cedar. He brings the smaller one to the bench and flips the satchel open. Rooting through it, he pulls out a scroll of leather he unrolls, bearing a tidy collection of tools. He lifts a small hammer from one section, a tapered nail from another, and jerks his chin at my hands. Frowning, I ease them toward him, remembering too late that I have a scale tucked between my bound wrists. My heart leaps so high up my throat I almost choke. Shit. I silently beg him not to notice while he settles my hands on a folded piece of cloth, sets the nail against the pin of my right cuff, then taps it. My brow lifts as the pin slides out, allowing him to loosen the iron cuff and wriggle it free, though he shows no inclination toward the one on my left wrist. What about my other one? I ask, nudging my still-bound hands at him. He bats them away.
Oddly enough, I'm in no mood to have my lungs minced.
Well, what about my ropes? I shove my hands at his chest again. I had a perfect opportunity to shove you off the cliff earlier, but I didn't. Only because I got distracted by the tick story, but he doesn't need to know those finer, rather embarrassing details. I'm not usually so bad at slaughtering. That should earn my hands some freedom, surely. Small sign of goodwill? I say, winking at him.
Foot.
He drudges out, and I scowl. What in the creators do you think I am? Some sort of filthy animal who goes around putting her muddy feet on cute, oddly shaped butcher blocks? He frowns.
You think it's oddly shaped?
I shrug. Little bit. Huh, he says, scanning it, a deep line still etched between his thick brows. That only adds to the cuteness, in my humble opinion. Wish I had one just like it. Guess I could, except I can't shape stone well to save myself. The flip side of blocking Boulder out so much I can only wield a few roughly hewn words, and none of them very well. That, and I don't have a home anymore to put one in. Ouch. Khan clears his throat and slaps his hand on the top.
Foot, Rave, before the soup burns.
Bossy and a bad listener. Definitely needs to die. I'm not putting my filthy foot on your ma's butcher block, King Khan Vagor. End of story. His head cocks to the side.
And I'm not kneeling before you for fear of being kicked in the head hard enough to knock me out cold so you can steal a blade from the drawer, slit my throat, and escape.
Valid concern, honestly.
Foot, unless you want to keep your pretty anklets on.
He goads, and I kick the damn thing up on the stool beside me instead, tarnishing the surface with a smear of dirt. He glares at me. I flash him a smile.
You're very stubborn,
He says, moving around to crouch by the stool. So nice of you to say. I sharpen that weapon daily.
I can tell.
He mutters, tapping the cuff free of one chafed ankle, then the other. When he's done, he tucks the tools in the pouch and rolls it up, stuffing it in his satchel, a waft of cold air blowing back at me from within the packed hollow. Frowning, I catch a glimpse of something silver and shimmery inside. Something that stills my heart, my next words cut with a serrated blade. What else is in there?
None of your business.
Your precious moon shard? He strikes me with a stare that chills me to the bone, then flips the satchel's flap. Giving me his back, he strides toward the stove, lifts the lid on the pot, and stirs the soup. I blow a wisp of dried hair from my face, gaze shifting from the satchel to Khan, back again. Scratching at the skin beside my nail, I tap my foot against the ground, drawing a breath so big I'm certain it'll shift this heaviness from my chest. It doesn't. Moon shards come in all different hues, depending on which fallen beast they split from. Most are dug up by those who work in the mines, from long-ago moonfalls from long-forgotten times. There's only been 3 documented moonfalls since folk began scribing our history onto scrolls, and each occurred somewhat recently. An adolescent saber scythe barely 3 phases old that fell within the Volcanic Plains, a molten maw large enough to destroy a chunk of the wall, littering the sky with a cloud of dust and sand that could be seen all the way from Gore, and a moon plume, the first to fall in more than 1,000,000 phases, perhaps longer. That beast was not small, and it did not fall lightly. It did not plummet without aftershocks of carnage. Silver as the aurora ribbons, that beast shone with the light of 1,000 moons before gravity lost its grip on the thing, before it fell, bursting into a litter of shards that blasted a crater within the shade so large a city could dwell within its dimpled depth. Or so I'm told. I've seen shards of it before, in a place where I was remade more times than I could count. Those glorious shards, one of the only forms of luster that didn't cause me some sort of pain. I don't know why Khan's collecting bits of the fallen moon plume that ripped from the sky more than 20 phases ago, but my gut tells me that's a secret best kept stuffed in his leather satchel. For that reason alone, I let silence have its crown. Rave. Chapter 34. Standing over the other side of the butcher block, Khan splits his focus between stirring the soup and crafting one of Raigun's scales into a blade, chipping off bite-sized crescents with a round-mouthed tool. It must be handy to have a ready supply of saber-scythe scales, given most dragon scale blades maintain their slitting edge forever. They're also lighter than any metal and hardier when shaped correctly, the very reason I have so many despite their steep price tag in the fade. Had. Fucking had. Rek probably has most of them now. The fuck. Can't wait to stuff one so far down his throat he chokes on it. Khan inspects his makeshift blade from all angles, loose hair hanging around his face. His black tunic is rolled to the elbows, exposing slash marks up and down his corded forearms, half the buttons popped, offering peaks of dense chest muscles that tense with each strong clamp of his tool. Another thumbnail-sized crescent of scale chips off and flicks into the large clay bowl he's working over. I avert my gaze toward the pot of bubbling soup, steam escaping from around the rim of the waggling lid. Killing him is looking harder by the hour. I thought it strange that he had no beaded soldiers with him, no powerful entourage, at least not for the part of his journey he's sharing with me. Though I'm beginning to wonder if he simply doesn't require the protection, perhaps so confident in his own abilities that any extra bodies or unwanted baggage he can't be bothered to cart around. My stare drifts to his satchel. Or perhaps he just wanted to travel incognito because he doesn't want folk to know he's hunting moon shards. Either way, he knows how to shape a damn fine blade. I flick another glance at it, jealousy rippling through me as he places the pretty weapon in the bowl with the excess shards and sets it all on a back bench, far from my reach. Clever tyrant king. He moves toward the stove and lifts the lid on our meal, releasing an eruption of steam he bats away, stirring the fragrant concoction with a wooden spoon before scooping some of the broth to blow on it. He sets the edge against his lips, sipping. My stomach gurgles, and I cough in an effort to smother the sound, though not before Khan raises a brow and flicks me a look I ignore. Wish I wasn't so hungry. Feels wrong accepting a meal from somebody I eventually intend to kill and behead, just to be safe. He ladles 2 clay bowls full of the soup, hearty curls of steam wafting off the top of each lumpy pour. My gut makes another one of those gurgling sounds, my cheeks burning as he settles a copper spoon in the bowl and slides the meal in my direction. He places another on my right, lowers himself onto the stool beside me, and begins spooning the meal into his mouth. My gaze bounces between his profile, my bowl, my spoon, my rope-bound wrists. Right. I maneuver the spoon's handle into my incompetent grip, discovering that if I tip my arms to the right, I can actually scoop the soup at an angle that should be accessible to my mouth. Should. I lift a small serving from the bowl, leaning forward. My fingers fumble, sloshing it everywhere. Teeth gritted, I try again, this time bringing it halfway to my wide-open mouth, tongue lolling before the utensil wobbles from my grip, splatting my arms and chest with soup. My spoon clatters to the ground, along with the remaining drabs of my patience. I make to move off the stool, but Khan grips my shoulder as if to keep me in place.
I'll get...
I whip my head around and sink my teeth into his forearm so fast I barely register it happening until it's done. Until the taste of his blood is in my mouth and he has me on my feet, backed against a wall with his thigh shoved between mine, with my hands pinned above my head and his hand clutched around my jaw. Our bodies are flush, breath sawing through our bared teeth. Our noses and foreheads collide as the remaining light is wicked from the room, the only source now spilling from the stove's kindled belly, making Khan look like an angry shadow poured over me, his eyes crackling embers glinting in the gloom.
You want to play rough, Moonbeam? We can play rough, but only after you eat.
Is that a command, sire? I swear the ruddy specks in his eyes flare, his body a strong, resonant force pressed against me. Too hot. Not hot enough.
There's a difference between being cared for and being commanded. Know it.
I chuff a humorless laugh, notching my chin forward. You give me a bowl of soup and expect me to eat it with bound hands? Your perception of caring is warped. Can't believe I'm thinking this, but I miss my shackles. Or more to the point, the chain draped between them. At least I could do things, like stretch and scratch. My wrists are bound so close together that wiping my ass is going to be an experience when I finally make it to the privy.
Try being open to accepting aid, Rave. You'd be amazed at how the grain no longer chafes. A simple request for my help doesn't make you weak. It makes you real.
I open my mouth to tell him I don't want the help of a tyrant Vagor king, when my stomach gurgles again, casting its unwanted vote. Something loud and rancorous unleashes upon the roof, a thundering assault unlike anything I've ever heard. My heart leaps into my throat, gaze ripping from Khan's and darting around the room, searching for cracks in the walls since the building is obviously crumbling. Did a moon fall? Shouldn't we be running? Hiding under the table? Why the fuck is he so calm?
It's just a heavy rainstorm.
He rumbles, his voice a tender stroke to my hackled heart. My body loosens. Oh. It's very loud, I say, still hunting the walls for cracks. Are you certain it's not a moonfall?
Positive. You are safe.
I meet his cinder stare. Debatable.
You are safe.
Because you need me for something. They always do. What is it? Might as well get it out in the open now, don't you think? Expectations really pinch when they stab you in the back. He frowns.
All I want from you is for you to eat your fucking soup. And maybe for us to get through this slumber without any more bloodshed. A concept I'm aware you struggle with.
My eyes narrow, seeking the fissures in his stare, finding only stone-hard conviction. You're a good liar. I'll give you that. A growl boils in his chest, and he releases my wrists, stepping back. For some strange reason, it feels almost like ripping a seam open, my breath shuddering free. He turns on his heel, picks up my spoon, rinses it under the tap, then sets it back in my bowl. Settling on his stool, he continues to eat in stoic silence, such a contrast to the battering of rain on the roof. The air grows tighter by the second. My gaze nips to the bite wound on his arm, blood dripping on the ground, still slicked across my lips. I cringe. I bled him in his ma's home. Damn it. And dropped soup everywhere. Turns out I'm a shit houseguest. Another grumbling belly gurgle, and I think of my beautiful, fallen Essie. She often baked for us, loved experimenting with all the different foods I'd bring home from the markets. I always thanked her, appreciating her efforts. I'm almost certain I didn't thank Khan when he slid me the meal. Just began wrangling my spoon after watching him prepare it from my somewhat relaxed perch on the stool. Wow, I'm a really, really shit houseguest. No matter how much I dislike the male and everything he stands for, I should at least show my gratitude for the fragrant meal he cooked for us both, and persevere with trying to get some into my mouth. With a deep sigh, I push off the wall and settle back on my stool, still wearing his blood on my face as I say, sorry for being disrespectful. And thank you for this meal. I appreciate the effort you put into it. He pauses, spoon mid-scoop.
It's my pleasure, Rave.
I nod, toss my hair over my shoulder with a swish of my head, flick him a shy glance, then lean forward, pucker my lips, and shove my face in the bowl, sucking a long slurp of broth. A moan slips out. This is delicious. Not too rich or salty. Subtle notes of whatever herbs he threw in here. There's even the hint of something citrus. Don't know what, but I like it. I'm just swallowing my second glorious mouthful when Khan erupts, his deep, gravelly laugh loud enough to battle the clamorous sky. My cheeks heat, and I almost snap at him again, but then his laughter weaves a thick ribbon beneath my ribs that flutters up my throat and bursts from my mouth so fast it also spurts from my nose with a spray of soup that coats the butcher block. My nostrils burn like I just snorted flames, but the laughter keeps coming, my entire body shaking from the force of it. I've never laughed like this before. Not truly. I didn't know it could feel this good. Why does it feel so good? Tears streak my cheeks. Soup drips from my nose and chin. My guts ache as my sound continues to spill. And spill. It takes me a while to realize the male next to me has gone quiet. My laughter tapers, face muscles loosening. I unscrunch my eyes, looking sidelong at Khan. My heart stills. He's watching me with a haunting intensity that threatens to peel off one of the many calluses crusting my heart. A look that presses against my chest, my soul. The sort of look that buckles spines, heartstrings, and knees in the same swift strike. The air between us hollows, hungry for something I certainly don't have the substance to fill, and I realize I might have been wrong about him. That he doesn't want me for my affinity with Claude or Balder, or the ease with which I slay. That he wants something much, much worse. Me. Just me. Don't do that, I bite out.
Do what?
Pretend we're cozy. We're not. I don't know you. You don't know me. I'm plotting your death as we speak. A tick in his jaw pulses, something flashing in his eyes that chills me to the bone.
Of course.
I clear my throat, break from his gaze, and sink my stare into my soup. Another beat of chest-cracking silence before he reaches for a cloth on the bench and uses it to wipe my face. I don't stop him. I don't stop him from grabbing my spoon and feeding me like a youngling. I don't stop him from ladling another serving he also feeds me before offering me a mug of water freshly poured from the tap. I don't stop him from wiping the soup from my shirt once we're done. From leading me up the crooked staircase, through a skewed wooden door that's high on one side, short on the other, and into a cozy sleep space with a single lopsided window and a large pallet topped with enough cushions and covers to drown in. A sleep space that smells like him.
The only exit is down the stairs and out the back door. That's if you can creep past me quietly enough, since I'll be sleeping on the cedar. If you succeed, I'll enjoy hunting you down, so be my fucking guest.
Privy?
Through there.
He points to another much smaller, more oddly shaped door as a burst of lightning ignites his beautiful, barbaric face in frightening undertones. I lift my bound hands. How am I supposed to—
I'm sure you'll work it out,
he mutters, then closes the doors so hard I jump. Rave. Chapter 35. I nudge at the scale pressed between my bound wrists until it flops onto my lap, then pinch it between my knees and get to work. Gaze homed on the door, I rub my rope across the tapered edge, severing the twirls of twine in fraying increments. It cuts through much faster than I was anticipating, my hand slipping as the rope gives way. The scale slices into my arm and I suck a sharp breath, clamping my jaw against the slit of pain. Shit. Fuck. Dragon balls. Damn it, Rave. I use my teeth to unravel my binds before pressing a hand on the cut, blood leaching through the gaps between my fingers and dribbling onto the pallet. I sigh. Guess I broke the no more bloodshed this slumber rule. Definitely time to kick myself out. I rush into the washroom and crank the copper faucet barely visible in the dull light, dragging my arm beneath the gushing flow and doing what I can to clean off the blood. Tearing a strip from my shirt, I bind the wound, using my teeth to tie off the knot before smiling at my handiwork, victory popping beneath my ribs in giddy bursts. I might have wounded myself, but I'm free. Free. Fuck yes. Now I just have to get away. I use the privy, lavishing in the freedom of being able to wipe my ass comfortably. Tucking my hair behind my ears, I move back into the sleep space, nipping another glance at the still-closed door. Drawn to the drawers at the end of the pallet, I pry the first open and rummage for something more comfortable than the scratchy garments I thought I'd die in, finding a black shirt that's butter soft. I pull out some equally soft pants that are short enough they likely cut off at Khan's knees. They'll probably still swallow me. Shrugging, I tug them on anyway, discovering they have a drawstring that allows me to cinch them at my waist. I keep my hair tucked beneath the oversized shirt now hanging off my shoulder as I creep back onto the pallet. Pulling the blankets up around myself despite the humid heat, I stash the scale and severed binds beneath the covers while I watch the door. Giving Khan time to fall asleep, I wait, entombed in the smell of cream and molten stone. The storm howls, dumping rain upon the roof, pelting against the little window. The space dark and gloomy as I bide my time, picking at the skin down the side of my nails, picturing all the gory things I'm going to do to the male who killed Essie and slashed my back to shreds. I'm coming for you, Rexaros. You fuck. But first, I have to escape a king. I edge the door open, my breath soft and steady, mind calm, sunken into that quiet place I go when I have a job to do. With the scale clutched in my right hand, I make for the stairs, timing my movements to the ferocious beat of the storm lashing against the dwelling, dragging my left hand down the wall to steady myself. I descend toward the ground floor, movement soft and slow, 4 steps from the bottom when a bolt of lightning ignites the room. Ignites him. My cheeks heat, thunder rumbling as I consume the vision of Khan Vagor stretched across the long cedar. Naked. More lightning, and I